go ahead and call this meeting to order. Welcome everyone. Before we stand for the pledge, 22 years ago today, our lives were forever changed when the unfathomable happened. 2,977 people were killed and thousands more were injured in the terrorist attack on our country. I'd like us to take a moment to silently remember those who lost their lives on that day and the impact the events have had on our lives from that day forward. Thank you. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. At this time, I need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. We are going to go into, I was thinking we would be doing announcements after we came back. Okay. So we're gonna go ahead and move them into executive session, so I do need a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code 742061B.
So moved.
Second.
Having a motion and a second, we need a roll call vote.
Chair Thompson?
Yes.
Vice Chair Grissom?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee Bain?
Yes.
Trustee Quimby?
Yes.
On that note, we are going into executive session. Okay, so we've come out of executive session. I will entertain a motion at this time.
I will move to release employee 9-11-2023A from their contract.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. So we will go back up to announcements. Yes. Okay. Just want to remind everyone that these board meetings are business board meetings. They're held in public. They are not public board meetings. The board is governed by Idaho Code Title 74 and Title 33, Chapter 5, Idaho Administrative Procedures Act, which is known as IDAPA, and follows our district policies. Any other announcements?
Yes, I have two. I'm so excited to tell you about. The first one is Corey Pettit, who is our industrial mechanics instructor, career technical instructor at Lakeland High School, applied for a grant through Idaho Career Technical Education and received notification today that he was granted $181,763 to upgrade his welding classroom.
That is
phenomenal.
Fantastic.
Good
job. Good work.
I know, and he worked with Mike Ferriola. I gave him some ideas for, because he had to submit all of
What you
the
wanted to
quotes for, like,
Yeah.
because this includes a welder, dual wire feeder, electrical installation for the welders, arc booth installation, gas manifold, pigtails for gas piping for gas and installation, manifold for gases, HVAC installation and ventilation. So he had to get quotes for what
Wow.
the equipment would cost and then also what the installation would cost. So Mr. Ferriello helped him
That's awesome.
navigate all that.
And who was that grant through?
Idaho Career Technical Education.
Awesome.
So that's my first, and the second is we were notified today that Ed Reports has identified Lakeland High School as the number 8 high school in all of Idaho.
Yay.
Yay.
Jimmy's goal was to crack that top 10 place, and he did it this year. And in North Idaho, the only high school outperforming Lakeland High School is Coeur d'Alene Charter School. They are actually outperforming Stanford.
Awesome.
Good job.
And that notice came from,
Ed Reports. Ed News
yeah,
Reports.
okay, yeah.
So I forwarded to you the link today that Jimmy sent to me, so you'll be able to read it.
And there'll be a big headline in the paper tomorrow
I'm
morning.
gonna work with Jackie and we're gonna do a press release.
Okay,
Thank you.
Yeah, so good things are happening. Pretty excited about that.
great.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
For sure.
Yep, and then,
Congratulations.
we did our elementary kids, last week as, kind of a fun activity to do on their first week of school. Wrote thank you cards to our first responders, which we delivered to our fire and law enforcement agencies, as, in recognition of Patriot Day today, so. They all got cute little cards made by little kindergarten first graders. That's all my announcements.
That is amazing. Thank you for sharing that with us.
You're welcome.
Alrighty, we will go on to community accolades. During the last legislative session, Governor Little signed a bill requiring schools to display plaques with the national motto, "In God We Trust," if they are donated. The day after the bill was signed into law, Pastor Corey from Rathdrum Calvary called Lisa to ask if the district would be willing to display them. He and a group of local pastors worked to purchase one for every school. The board and the district would like to publicly thank, what's that?
I just wanted, so that we have moms in the audience, I wanted them to see the plaque.
Okay.
It's not very big.
So we would just like to publicly thank Calvary Rathdrum, New Beginnings Baptist Church, Athol Baptist Church, Rathdrum Bible Church, and Jesus Loves Rathdrum. All of our plaques have been hung in the entryway of each school.
Cool. And that, each one of those plaques was $220, so.
Wow. And they're heavy.
Really?
Yes. They're iron, steel, they're heavy.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll move on to public input. Do we have more than the 2 that were handed in? Okay. First, we'll have Anita Dupsik. Did I get it right?
You did.
Yay!
Anita Duxick, community member. Good evening, Chairman Thompson, Superintendent Arnold, and trustees. I did not make it to the last board meeting. I wasn't able to be here, but I was reading the minutes and I noticed that the Alex piece was tabled again. I thought it was going to be on this agenda, but it wasn't. But I just want to urge you one more time to, when it comes back to the table, if it does, to vote no. I think one of the questions that we need to ask is, we know that AI is watching us. We know that when we turn on our TV, when we get on our computers, on our phones, we know that AI is watching us. But one question we never ask is, who's watching AI? And we are assuming that the data is going to stay in a closed system, but we don't know that for sure. And I just really think that our kids' data should not be part of the testing that might be going on or whatever's going on as our culture starts figuring out exactly what AI does. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Tanya Flory. Did she leave?
She sent an email to the board, actually,
Oh, she
saying she
did?
couldn't be here, yeah.
Oh.
Well, it's, her thing's in there, there's a letter in there for her, so, I don't know,
On the,
on her emails. I think that's for her,
I don't know. When did it come?
right? Tonight, I
Oh.
believe.
Oh, one
Oh.
of her daughters wasn't feeling well.
Oh, 6:55, okay. Okay.
Does this need to be read out loud?
Would you like me to read it out loud?
I can read it. I just didn't know if we were supposed to read them out loud, if they're,
Sometimes we do.
okay, that's why I was asking.
Yeah, you know, yeah, sometimes we do it. But if you wanna read it, that's fine, otherwise I won't, no big deal.
Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tanya Flory. I have 2 elementary age students within your district. We were part of the rezoning from Garwood to John Brown. I sent the board an email back in August, very frustrated at the reckless decision made to change our school zones in such an abrupt way. The key to this is not what was done, but how it was done. It was negligent, reckless, and I find it hard to believe that any considerate thought was put into the decision. In the response I received, it said, "I acknowledge the district did not handle the rezoning process effectively or efficiently, and the process will be corrected." I would ask that the board make us, as parents and the community, aware of what changes have been or will be implemented to correct this consequential decision. I also want to express my frustration that while Mrs. Arnold graciously held an open forum to discuss the decision after it was made, I was surprised that not one of your board members thought to show up. To me, it showed a lack of accountability and care. It's easy to say, "We hear you." It's easy to say, "We'll do better next time." And while we will make mistakes, actions speak louder than words. I try to look at situations and pull any type of good from them. Oftentimes we can focus on the negative, and that prevents us from finding something positive. This incident made me realize that I have not been a great present community member. I drive by John Brown frequently and never look at it because it is irrelevant to me since my children do not attend. But the rezone decision put me in the principal's office at John Brown, and for the first time I looked. We are always taught to not judge a book by its cover, but an elementary age child should be walking into buildings that look fun, bright, and playful. A parent should be able to drop off their child and feel happy and have peace of mind. Though parents are going to worry no matter what, they shouldn't have to worry about mold, dry rot, a roof falling in, a door not latching correctly, or other health or safety issues. Those were some of my first thoughts when arriving at the school. My heart literally sank. It's not just the appearance, it's the real safety concerns. Even though I made the decision for my children to not attend John Brown, part of being a better community member is advocating for the students, staff, and parents there. I would ask the board to work diligently to find a way to make the school better, allocate funds to the school for new siding, a new roof, and replacement of rotting broken boards. Yes, it's an expense and more money will need to be requested from our community, but I'm sure with the right effort put forward, a board concerned for the safety and well-being of their students will find a way to get it done. The students, staff, and parents deserve it. Thank you, Tanya. Okay.
When was the forum?
August, I'd have to go back and look at I did address that, and I let the parents know it wasn't on your calendar because, I didn't anticipate that you would need, to be there.
Yeah, cause one of the concerning things is that, you know, we always get this input and I try and answer as many as possible. And we get parents that come in and talk or community or whatever, but, you know, it never really gets resolved and they have this perception that we're either informed of all this or that we have the ability to fix all these things. I mean, which we're trying, I think this board out of the boards prior is trying pretty hard to fix those things. And I'm not sure how to address it collectively other than continuously typing emails and, you know, saying that, I don't know, if it's a community forum where we finally, you know, which I started asking early on, which we finally can talk to the community regardless of what the state and everybody else tells us we can do. There's nothing in statute that prevents us from doing it like they all want us to believe. So that we can finally have a conversation with the community. It's like I was sharing with the chair one day, there's nothing in statute that says when people come up here and talk, we can't talk back with them. But yet there's been this blanket, you can't do that thing, and that's just not true. Because this is concerning to me. I think all of us already agree and knew, you know, the conditions of the buildings, which we're working really hard, and the junior high looks magnificent from the outside. I haven't been in the inside yet. Yeah, maybe we can find a way to address, cause if I mean, I just remember all the emails that we got with all those things, and I think a lot of it is, I don't know how to communicate better with them.
Yeah, she did send the board an email on August 23rd, and I did reply on August 24th, and then she responded back on August 24th, and it was my understanding that the district was able to accommodate, was able to allow her student to remain at their home school and not have to rezone to John Brown, but it was my understanding that one child wanted to go to John Brown and the other one didn't, but now by this tone it sounds like that they're both back at their other school.
No, because we didn't have room, so mom, they were already split, but mom opted to go to the other one, is at Betty Kiefer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we were able to make that work. I don't know how to answer the question that you're asking. You know, the board set aside money for residing for John Brown. That's happening. The roof is new.
Right.
It's completely new. So there's information out there that I think people just they look at it and what they see is the siding, and they just assume that the whole thing is falling apart.
Right.
Well, it sounded like she went inside. I guess we can clarify with her. I mean, she said she went into the principal's office.
Yes.
And I haven't walked through there recently, just because I knew the condition. The junior high made such an impression. Junior high Apple and Spirit Lake made such an impression on me when I was going through there. That's where I knew the biggest need was. But anyways, that's just my thing. I think there a lot of us feel that way. The communicating, you know, to me, I hear these things and I try and address them, you know, but how do we collectively address them? How do we educate them on what we are and aren't doing? Or, you know, she obviously understands a little bit at least about the funding, you know, but anyways, I just thought I'd bring it up.
So, one of the things I can do is reach out to her. So I meet monthly with parents who are interested in getting answers to things or sharing concerns, so that they can walk away and go back out into the community with factual information instead of getting their information from social media. So I could reach out to her and just invite her to that meeting, and
Sure.
it gives her an avenue to get some of those questions answered. But that's what I'm trying to do, and it's,
Right.
you know, it started out really small, it's kind of growing, but the more people who have correct information can start to kind of, the intent was to kind of get that out into the community, so. The other thing, just along that line, is the rezoning protocol that is done. The admin looked at it and gave feedback, and so I will send it out this week with a Google form for feedback from parents with just the procedures that we will follow if we ever have to rezone again, so she'll be able to see that
What
part
has
of her
been done
question.
to correct that.
Yep. And then I will bring it to the board in October.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I believe the community meeting was on
The 31st.
the 31st of August.
Yes.
I thought it was a
No.
Wednesday.
It was early in August, cause it was right after.
I think it was August 9th,
Yeah,
because we had agenda planning that night and you had talked about how great the meeting was.
yes. Yeah, cause I came.
Yeah, you came right after that.
I think you're thinking a different.
I'm thinking the other community.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, this one was just, yeah, and they called it a community forum. I just sent an invitation to the parents who were being impacted by the rezoning to come together so that I could explain the process and answer questions for them. I didn't put it on your calendar because I didn't anticipate that you would need to be there, but they definitely, were people who wish that you would have been.
Yeah.
So moving forward, I think just to err on the side of caution, if I'm gonna meet with a group of parents,
Yeah.
I'll just make sure that I let the clerk know and that it goes on your calendar, and then if you're interested in participating or stopping by, you can.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Yeah, that'd be
Instead
great.
of, I was just trying to protect your time and didn't anticipate that I would need
Right,
you there.
right.
So, but,
Well, lessons were learned and we will move forward and not make the same mistakes again, hopefully. Okay, no other public input? Okay, moving on to reports, we have the financial reports. And I just wanna say thank you.
Yeah.
I do have to offer my apologies in my short window with the long weekends. I forgot to put a summary page in there. So next month you will have a summary page similar to what you see in your board hearing packet
Okay.
that will roll all of it up into one in a format that you're familiar with. But I did want to get all of the funds into how they're presented for budget.
No, thank you, this is amazing. It's very well displayed and thought out and a lot of information that we've been asking for quite some time. So thank you very much.
There are some of the percentages that are gonna look a little wonky. We have some accruals that we're waiting to wash essentially against this current fiscal year. Also, all of the fund balances are estimated as we're wrapping up our annual fiscal audit and don't have the firm final numbers. I'm estimating that the fund balance for the general fund will be 4.3 million at the end instead of the 6.8 that we budgeted, as we discussed before. It could be a little bit higher, it could be a little bit lower, but that's my conservative mark is the 4.3.
and I did have a conversation with the auditor,
Okay.
as you asked me to.
I do, one quick question, cause on some of these reports, when we come into the expenditures, like where it says, I'm right now looking at Fund 257, but it says, August revenue, and then we have a bracketed 1. And then some of the reports, there's a bracketed 1 or bracketed 2, or I wasn't sure.
We do have some receivables that we're waiting to wash out. Part
Okay.
of the expenses were moved to the prior fiscal year, so the receivables gonna wash out this fiscal year for that.
Okay,
So, and then in, I think it's 257, there's not a carry forward in
Okay.
that account, so it's just, that revenue that you see sitting there, that's in a negative for August, will wash out.
okay. I wasn't really
September will be,
focused.
honestly, August is the worst month to present financials because we don't have really any payroll expenses in some of these funds. It just looks really wonky until we get into September.
And I wasn't like, I'm not over focused at the moment on the over-under categories
Yeah.
because I
Nope.
know where we're at.
Yep.
It was just like, well, what does this mean?
Yeah.
I
Over under, I'll be
don't know.
more concerned about in January.
Okay.
If we're over, say, 75% on salaries and fringe in January, I'm gonna be very concerned, because we shouldn't be that far along at that point.
Right.
So that's where I really start, December, January is where we'll really start to look at those over under amounts to make sure they're on track appropriately.
With respect to the enrollment and attendance, I noticed, just curious, because we have a couple of enrollment numbers that are, or we have a couple of attendance numbers that are higher than the actual enrollment numbers.
It's a great question.
Okay, okay. I mean, it's not like
I apologize,
astronomically
Chelsea,
high.
prepped that report. I'd have to look.
Okay,
And she wasn't able to stay.
no, it's a, I just was like, huh, that's interesting.
I do know we had students still registering on the first day of school.
We did.
Oh, I'm sure you did, I'm sure you did. Okay.
And still today.
Yes.
But it looks like our enrollment is not, it's 133 down from what we were last year, which is really good.
Enrollment is down across the state.
Okay.
From the superintendent's meeting, correct?
Yeah, especially in kindergarten. Very low numbers.
Well, I was gonna say that in looking at, the transferring over from last year to this year, we seem to be correlating really well.
Yeah, I think the 130-ish people were down are people who maybe were living here and
But
aren't anymore.
Right, right.
And I do wanna kinda give a shout out to Gwen and Rebecca because, and Norma, they worked with every single family that didn't have what the board asked for registration in our policy, which is, either proof of ownership of a home or rental of a home, and then a utility bill in their name to that address. If they didn't have those two things, they had to come here. And we got some really unique things. We got rental agreements on napkins written in crayon. So we had to kind of work through a lot of those things, but these three ladies did a good job, and they got yelled at quite a bit by people who were frustrated. But where we saw the decline, really saw the decline was up in Timberlake Middle School and Timberlake High School, and I think that we just had some people who realized that they couldn't game the
Push their
system
way.
anymore, and so they're not with us. But we also now are going through the process because of the open enrollment law of Rebecca spent all day today calling families who had requested to come. And if we didn't have a room at the school that they wanted at that grade level, she's calling and saying, we don't have room here, but we do have room here. And then just let us know if you're interested in that spot. So the numbers will come up a little bit, but just to that threshold that the board set in our policy.
Any other comments or input?
The report is beautiful.
Quite
Thank you for doing
Yes.
in less than 6 months what I know that Ramona and Michelle for 3.5 years and myself for 2.5 years
Yeah.
begged for and never got and were denied. So I just want to publicly thank you for
Yes.
taking the time and really listening to what we wanted to see.
I'm curious, is this a report you're creating or are you able to pull it from Skyward?
Currently I'm creating it. I'm pretty proficient in Excel. myself, I do say so myself. But I'm working on, putting the formulas into where I can plot the report into the back of it and it'll pull it all forward. I
Okay.
just didn't quite have enough time to get
No,
to it, so
I
I've
know
got the
this
structure
is-
there. And then if there's any other graphics that you would like to see, I know that our previous financials had some charts for you, so if you would like some charts, I can make some, but I'd like to,
I'm good with the
your
numbers.
direction.
The numbers are all
Numbers
we need.
perfect. Numbers and percentages.
Numbers on a document that
Right.
we can come
And this-
back 6 months from now and say, this is what it was, why is it, you
Yeah.
know?
And this ties directly to what was presented in the budget hearing and the budget document presented to the state, so,
Okay.
you will be able to see the numbers that you're asking for on the document, so.
Thank you so much. And the only reason I asked is it was never the intention to create more work for someone, and I just appreciate that this looks like it came from a program. I mean, it's
Nope,
beautiful.
It's an Excel spreadsheet.
Looks marvelous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, and sometimes that work has to be done up front,
Yes.
Mhm.
and then once you
It's
have
pretty-
it,
yeah.
then you,
You can
yeah.
roll through it.
Yep.
Yes.
Which was the purpose of Excel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
I love
It's-
Excel.
I'm struggling with Google, I will tell you that.
Yeah.
Excel is my
Maybe.
favorite.
That could be an agenda item.
I'm with you there, cause
Some of us
I know
will
we had
never
I had a hard
friends with
time when we were
Google.
trying to do something and I had to use Google, I just.
Yeah.
It is helpful for some things, I do like the sharing of the documents, but from an Excel, they're not the same.
No,
Mm-mm.
no, they are not.
Well, everything with Microsoft shareable too, if not more.
It
And the
is.
thing is Google Translate nowhere except to Mountain View, California. Nobody, I mean, Chromebooks, if we're gonna spend money and time and everything, at least use tools, students to staff, that is transferable to the real world,
Right.
you know, so, yeah, that's fine if you don't use Google.
I'm
I mean,
learning.
it looks like a developer's tool, it was written by developers for developers, and to them it works just fine.
Yes.
Yeah, wow.
No, it's handy for its specific uses, but when you get detailed into the formulas and stuff that I like to work with,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excel is better.
Yeah, well, much.
See, this is why we hired her on the spot.
Yeah, very nice, great job, yay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And no other questions?
Thank
this
you.
time.
No, I'm happy.
We'll go into the open enrollment documentation. So it looks like we're not, so John Brown is closed at all grades, as is Mountain View
And Apple.
and Apple.
I was curious why the columns, this is just me and maybe it's, I don't know.
Cause Jessica didn't put together your spreadsheet.
Okay, why Athel's columns are in a different order than all the other ones except Lakewood High School, or, yeah.
Oh, because I started with a very, kinda generic, and then as I've gone through and added columns that I thought the board would wanna see, and I thought I'd gone back and put them all in the right order, but obviously I didn't.
I didn't know if there was
There's a few schools that are
reason, if it was
bouncing
like,
around. Yeah.
There was a test.
I'll fix
well,
it.
there's a
I'll
difference
fix it.
between, there's a difference between how the elementary schools look versus the secondary schools, because they're looked at a little bit differently, but, yeah.
Yeah, and the numbers are a little bit challenging in that, like at Lakeland High School, for example, when you get it to 11th and 12th grade, and even, at Timberlake High School, in the dual credit classes, you might have juniors and seniors at Lakeland High School in the same section of English 175, and it might be counted as a junior section, or it might be counted as a senior section, but you actually have seniors and juniors in that section, so
Oh.
the numbers are not quite as clean at this high school level as they are at the elementary level. The elementary's easy. And really up until you get to the dual credit, the high schools and the middle schools were easy also. And then Mountain View looks like they have some freshman spots, but they actually have sophomores occupying those freshman spots because they're behind in credits, so.
Well, I guess I'm a little, I don't know if I'm reading this right, but the target for Mountain View, as opposed to the number of students in Mountain View, that's a little off base.
Right.
How are you gonna do that?
And that was based on the numbers that we put in to the policy, the target numbers.
Right.
Cause
I
I
do
was
it
looking at it
every-
today.
Yep.
And Mountain View was hard because, one semester is a quarter class, and so Paul had a really hard time telling me how many
What they have.
sections they have, so it's kind of our best guess.
Okay.
It looks like we're super over,
Right.
um,
Extremely over.
right, but, we aren't actually because of the way they run their schedule.
Okay.
No, I don't know.
Oh, you just hit
Okay.
back a bunch of times.
Is there any other, data that you would have liked to have seen? I just tried to think through what I thought you might ask for with this document.
No, it was interesting though to have these numbers and then also look at the master schedules for the schools.
Master schedules are very redeeming.
I know.
I'm trying to understand why we have so much room at Timberlake Middle School and yet we have 4 teachers that don't have classrooms and they're working on carts. Like, how can we say that we have that much room?
Because it's the way Chris is doing his master schedule. So if he ran a normal 6-period day, he's overstaffed. If he were running a normal 6-period day, he would have a normal number of kids in all of his sections and he wouldn't need, but he's got, he has this this roar class that they teach, which is they're using it as intervention time, instead of having the classroom teachers do the intervention. So when you look at how many students he has and you look at the number of staff he has, he's overstaffed.
Yeah. Well, over here is too. Not as much.
Yeah, but I think that one actually should be at the 7th grade level, cause they've got 30 some kids in our 7th grade classrooms. So I'm working with Amber on that. And Jimmy would tell you that he's probably a little bit overstaffed at Lakeland High School because he's been allowed to offer so many electives.
That's where I figured the numbers were creating
But when you
the
start seeing classes of 10 and 12 and
8.
14
and I get the 8 is a yearbook class,
yeah,
but
still.
So we have a little bit of work to do, and when you look at the secondary, there definitely are places we could whittle down as we have attrition. If we need to get our numbers, our certified staff a little closer to what the state's funding, but when you look at how many kids are in class. I think they were a little bit nervous when I asked them for it, and one of them said, "What are you doing with this information?" I said, "The board would like to see it." They're like, "Oh, okay." So, there's some work.
Timberlake Middle School is a little bit confusing because it's not really a master schedule. And it shows a lot of classes. Now, I'm not sure whether they're duplicated or exactly what it is. So we might need some explanation or something.
yeah. We'll get to it.
Yeah, I don't know why he didn't print his out the way everybody else did from their master schedule, so I can ask that question.
Any other conversation on the open enrollment?
Can I just, remind the board that the law says that 4 times a year we have to post our open
Okay.
positions, so my plan is after Rebecca finishes her work and we get the kids who have requested attendance at Lakeland, get them in, then I'm just going to put the school, the grade, and the number of open spots. And I won't have all the other information in there, but that will get posted on our website, and then I have to submit it to the state. And I
Okay.
have it in my calendar to do it at the end of each quarter moving forward.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay, moving on to the consent agenda, we have minutes from the previous meeting, minutes of subcommittee meetings, HR items, and regular and special bills. I did forward, well, does anyone have any comments on the minutes of the previous meeting, I guess? Start there. Okay, cause I did. So I forwarded them already to Olivia. They were grammatical and just, questions on some of the, motions. I was asking if they were verbatim, and so I had her look into some of that stuff. So, which I learned something, so. Because when I say things like, I'll entertain a motion at this time, and then I get I'll second, what that person is saying is that whatever's written on the agenda is what is actually now the motion. So when it's just like, on an action item like supplemental curriculum request, and I say, I'll entertain a motion and someone says second, that's not a very clear motion, but I do understand where we're going with that, so I might rephrase my words now, I don't know. Just throwing that out there. The only thing I have on the subcommittee minutes is the minutes for the long range planning committee. I couldn't follow. So is the red comment what, because it looks like, can you explain them to me? Instead of me trying to explain what I think I know.
So we, this meeting happened after the board approved the committee's recommendation for rezoning, and so we just highlighted what we had looked at. But here's, no, let me go back. This meeting happened, so we had the board meeting, and then at the end of it, you had asked to have,
well, what we were receiving before was rolling things.
right,
So
and
everything was still there, and then
I took that off, and I stopped doing that, cause you had asked that.
Right.
But right after we had the board meeting, when, I think you had asked for, an agenda item to discuss, we had a special meeting coming up to discuss the rezoning, people panicked and thought that you were going to change what we had done, and so we went back and they just looked at, okay, all of the things that we had talked about, here are the numbers, and so then they said, well, if the board's gonna go back and undo what we did, or make the decision to, in addition to what they already approved, move Brookshire, then the committee's recommendation was to allow people to get grandfathered. So that's what those notes are. This is just the conversation the committee had, trying to guess what the conversation was going to be at the board meeting. They ended up not even on the same page as what was discussed, so in the end, this is all kind of a moot point, I guess, but that's all they wanted to talk about at that meeting was, if the board changes what we decided, can you let them know that this would be our recommendation? So that's what was captured. There was no new business really that happened at that meeting. It was more trying to figure out what direction the board was gonna go. And there was a concern about how many kids would end up at John Brown if we added Brookshire. And so there was conversation about maybe allowing families to grandfather back to their schools and just start with the kids who were new. But we didn't have to go there because that's not what the board, that wasn't the conversation that we had.
Okay. Alright. Well, I guess my frustration then in looking at these is you've got recommendations on there that were never even presented to the board.
Because I didn't have to, because the conversation wasn't about adding Brookshire back. So that's why.
And I understand that. I think maybe there needs to be better, I guess better communication or better direction or better something, because my concern is just what this may convey to the public,
The way it reads.
as to what we have been through. And the reality was the meeting the special meeting was held because the parents were upset and the board needed to hear from the parents. That was the purpose of the meeting. There was never any, anything outside of that scope. So to have a subcommittee decide, ooh, well, let's think about all these things, it's just a little frustrating, especially since none of this information was provided to the board. And what I heard you saying was after the meeting and then the schedule of the special meeting, there was a long-range planning meeting in between there?
Yeah, we met on Monday,
Okay.
we had long-range planning on Tuesday, and, this conversation, was, I mean, I shared with the group that the board, approved the committee's recommendation. Then there were people who brought up the fact that there was a special meeting and now this was coming back, and there was concern about adding Brookshire. And so then we started looking at the numbers of people who would be going to John Brown and whether or not we could actually accommodate that.
Okay.
So, and then the recommendation is there, they asked me to put that there if the board made the decision to move Brookshire, but the board didn't, and so.
So
I'd
within
like
this,
to go
within
back
this
and
layout,
change it.
within this layout is the colored font discussion, or, because we've got 3 different colors on this thing and I'm trying to figure it out.
The red is just so that the numbers stood out, so that, because we were really focused on how many kids were we talking about moving to John Brown if we moved Brookshire.
What's the burgundy?
That's old, we didn't even get down there.
Okay. Alright, so,
Do you want me to clean up I can clean it up so that it reads
well,
the
I
way-
think for the next presentation
needs to
of
be-
minutes, what's that, go ahead.
It needs to be notated, and it needs a legend on it. Cause what's gonna happen is it's gonna come back in a few months and they're gonna say, oh no, look, right here,
I know.
it's in the notes,
Mhm.
and
So I
that's not
will-
what happened.
Yep, so I'll go
Right.
back to the notes and, I will, at the top, I'll explain, the conversation. So that the recommendation was never made because the board did not make the determination to move Brookshire.
Okay.
So I would fix that.
And I think just a little color legend so people that are just pulling them up that they, you know.
They can understand what's going on.
Right. What color means what. So when I got back in, I don't know, the board book's acting really weird, I don't know what's doing weird things.
On the resignations, there was one, that I would like a little bit more clarification.
Are you talking, is it a para and there's a screenshot?
No?
Okay.
It's the one right below that. It's page 7 of our 8.
Apologize.
That's okay.
Minutes, HR.
Let me see.
I can't find your alternates resignations. And it's page 8.
Page 7
Seven.
of page 8.
Page 7. What is the date on the resignation?
September 5th. Well, it's the date on the email. Your email is September 6th.
Oh, no, that's, let me see the name, cause I'm looking at the actual resignation, sorry, I just need the name.
There were unforeseen circumstances at an elementary school. Does that ring a bell?
There was a screenshot that went with it that had a text message. That person, had a family issue and was no longer able to take the job.
Yeah, the issue wasn't had.
That was, I did do a follow-up on that, cause I was concerned about the language, and then they sent me a text message screenshot.
Okay. Okay. Anybody have any other comments on the HR report or resignations? Okay.
On HR, I have a question of Bill this when we get done.
Okay. I'm there. Are you there? Are you still looking?
Yeah, was that on here, discussion about the HR report?
Down at the bottom.
That's at the bottom.
Okay, I'll wait.
I'll wait for that.
Yeah.
Okay. Alright, so moving on to the bills. What is a leaf spring replacement?
It's on a vehicle.
$20,000
I asked
for a
the same
spring.
question.
How much?
Well, it's not a,
$20,000.
It's like this, is it the suspension?
Mhm.
yeah,
It's part of
it's not a spring, it's a long piece of steel, probably several of them stacked on top of each other.
Okay.
Yeah,
I asked-
it's,
I just thought that was
Yes,
a
the
lot of
same
money for a
yeah,
spring.
it's not a spring. Like,
It's not the spring you're thinking of.
Yeah, it said spring. What is
but
the,
that is a lot, what was it for?
a bus?
Oh.
Transportation, it says
Wow, yeah.
Tran bus leaf spring replacement, $20,000.
Well, the cost of steel, we don't make steel here anymore, so
That's right.
we gotta ship it
Bring it
in.
in.
And that's tempered steel.
Yeah,
The Destiny Library license renewal, what is that?
Destiny is the software program that we use that has all of our library books categorized. And that's the program that our librarians are actually going into every single student's profile and marking which genres parents allow them to check out.
Mhm.
And it's just our annual subscription.
Okay, and it's something we've had for a while?
Yes.
Okay. Really great reading elementary curriculum.
That's one of our phonics programs we've been using for a little while ago.
Okay. Oh, we had a sidewalk replacement through Sterling Concrete at John Brown.
That piece that I talked to you about, that where we had the chunks out,
Okay.
Where was the location?
in front of the library.
Because that was one of my questions.
We just, recently, we have somebody on staff who actually can do small concrete repair, and now you can, purchase a little pull behind with this,
Oh, yeah.
the mixer thingy that,
Yeah.
so that you get a smaller amount of concrete, so,
3.5 yards or something like that.
yeah, so they've been repairing small pieces where we can.
And then we had another $32.50 go out for board book premium. I thought we'd already paid all of those fees for board book. And it went to a TASB.
yeah, that's the Texas State Board of Education, it's their, yeah.
Do you know what we paid $32.52 for board book premium software on? When I thought we'd already paid all the extra upgraded charges for that program?
It sounds to me that's
Is it the
a
annual?
support kind of, yeah,
Annual subscription.
yeah. Is what that sounds like to me, but I don't know, somebody can,
Okay, those were my questions.
Yeah.
What questions do you have, Bob?
I'm looking for the other one,
Oh.
but it's for Mike. You did some electrical work at the high school for the scoreboard. Describe what took place there.
Which scoreboard?
I don't know, well, it says basketball.
Oh, they had to put
The
the
shot
shot
clocks.
clocks.
Yeah.
The state mandated that they have you
Shot
know,
clocks for
shot
basketball
clocks.
now.
You know, like they have in college in the pros,
Mhm.
45 seconds or whatever it is to shoot. They
Is it-
mandated that, so we had to purchase them.
Okay.
But they didn't provide the funding, but they
No.
mandated the
Yeah.
change.
Are you
Yeah.
talking about the 2740, the electric service to LHS basketball team?
Yeah, it says electrical service, so.
Yeah, so we had to run circuits for the shot clocks at Timberlake High School and Layton High School. There wasn't existing power there for that, to add those two devices to each location.
So that's
End of the
two-
court.
Two locations?
Correct, Timberlake.
This just says Lincoln High School.
Yeah, so there'd be another invoice for Timberlake as well.
Oh, yeah, there is.
Another $2,700.
It was actually $36.50 for Timberlake, electrical service to THS basketball time clocks. It's on there. Both to Mill Electric.
Had to go further.
Yeah, it was a longer run.
So what is that being paid out of? Does that come out of the levy money?
Not currently, it's just being paid out of facilities budget,
Plant facility.
not plant facility, just
Just
facilities.
Oh, just facilities.
Just facility
Maintenance.
departments?
Maintenance of
Okay.
facilities, okay.
Mike loves that, right, Mike?
Don't athletics have a budget?
Because it was mandated by the state.
Okay. Other questions, Bob?
Second payment for the middle school project is on here for $576. Is there another payment to be made?
Yes, that was for the 85% completion.
So we got another 15% at the end.
We paid a lot of bills. So. And I'll look into what we paid for book and
Okay.
get you a breakdown of that for the next board meeting.
Thank you, I would appreciate that.
We paid, I wanna make sure I understand this, we paid for some sweatshirts at Timberlake High School. And it says to be refunded by Timberlake High School SBAA. I don't know, that's what it says.
I will have to look at that one a little bit closer.
Well, it's $3,100, so that's pretty expensive sweatshirts.
If I remember correctly, they're purchasing, they had to purchase the sweatshirts. I don't wanna speak out of turn, but they're selling them at the school. It's not a booster club, project. So they purchased the sweatshirts. Their building level funds are gonna pay for the sweatshirts.
So we paid for them, but we're gonna get reimbursed from the.
Immediately, yes. It was just the timing of when the purchase needed to be made and the functionality of the purchase. So, I will double check, but I believe we've either received reimbursement or it's in process already for that purchase.
Appreciate it.
But I did clarify that it wasn't their booster club purchasing sweatshirts for their booster club.
To turn around
It
and
is,
sell.
yes, because that's, we all can't do that, but.
Oh, you'd be surprised.
What happened at the roof at Lakeland Middle School?
Regarding,
It says roof repair at Lakeland Middle School.
yeah, we had a leak.
Whereabouts was the leak?
Over room 12.
Okay.
There are sections of that roof that were done by a contractor previous to me coming on board that carried no warranty. And so I'm still chasing deficiencies in their workmanship. I have been for 7 years. So we've got locations at that school, Lakeland High School, Apple Elementary, where these things crop up, and I've got my current roofer that goes and addresses the problems.
Okay, so that roof is 7 years old, is that what you're saying?
What's that?
That roof is 7 years old?
Yeah, sections that are not a warranty under my current contractor would be around that time frame. Maybe 2014, 2015 is when it was probably put on.
What type of roof is that?
Membrane,
Membrane?
yeah.
Who's doing RCLA?
Chelsea is doing our CLA. I completed it last year and I thought it was very valuable, so.
Raptor Technologies.
It's our safety and security software.
So at the elementary schools, when people come in to volunteer, they have to scan their driver's license, and it is linked to the FBI sex offender registry and the state sex offender registry. So if they are a registered sex offender, a notification comes up on the computer so that we know that they can't be working with kids.
So that's done in real time at all schools?
All of our elementary schools.
All the elementary schools. Good to know.
We've had that in place since I was principal at Keeper.
The In Touch receiving renewal, what is that?
InTouch is our current payment platform, so it's being used for, like Chromebook fees or registration fees, things like that.
Parents must.
Is it credit cards or is it online?
It's online credit where parents can go and pay online. There are some in person, I believe, with the athletic aides. We're in the process of looking at transition to a different company for those services to save the district money.
Okay.
Wrestling mats at Timberlake High School, are those replacing all the old ones, or, I mean, it's $11,000,
Yes.
$12,000.
Yeah, it's Timberlake Middle School, and they were given old ones from Timberlake High School, and they've completely broken down, and so, we have like ones. We put them off for a year, but
It needed to
we
happen.
need it. Needed to happen.
That's all the questions I have.
Okay. Since we did switch to a new drug testing company, can you just sort of back burner, but do a comparative of what we're spending to make sure that it was the right choice? Okay. Financially speaking.
And the new company we're already using for our transportation department.
Yeah, I gotta see the bill. That's why I was like, oh, yeah, we should probably like make sure we're doing
And,
good with that.
while we're comparing those numbers, just a reminder that this company actually, tests for, I think it was 3 more substances than we were getting with the previous, so it'll be interesting to see
Yeah.
how that goes.
Yeah. How that plays out. So any further questions on the bills?
Okay, so just for clarification, I have a follow-up on the board book amounts. Timberlake High School sweatshirts, the reimbursement, and then comparative on the new and old drug company.
Right, which I wouldn't expect that comparative right
Probably
quick.
be mid-year.
That'd be fine. Or even, April, May.
Okay.
After the spring drug testing is done.
Just to see where we landed. Then I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda, with the exception of the 8/15/23 LRPC minutes, subcommittee minutes, to not be accepted.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on to old business, we have the superintendent follow-up. Any questions, comments, concerns regarding this? So according to the state board, they're suggesting we use Imagine Math.
Well,
for assessment needs, is that correct?
Their recommendation typically for high school is Alex, but, I had told her that we were looking for something outside of Alex, and, the only thing that she could recommend for us is Imagine Math, which is very similar to iReady in that, it doesn't go all the way through high school, but it does at least go through geometry. And even better, the state pays for the license, so it's free for us.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know if there's a huge need for us to be collecting data on kids in Algebra 2 and pre-calculus, cause those kids typically, if they're going on to the advanced math classes, have the prerequisite skills they need. But it would allow us to collect data and look at skill deficiencies for algebra and geometry, which kids have to pass to graduate. So it could be a good alternative. The state's been paying for this program for a long time. It used to be called Think Through Math, and before that it was called something else. Twin Lakes Elementary had a teacher that her kids were in that program, and they were like the state champions for the number of minutes or the number of something. It's a competition, but so it's been around a long time.
On these pods, THS, Mountain View, LHS, TMS, LMS, and Athol do not have pods, is that correct?
I didn't get any information back from them, so I did not circle back around and follow up with them. Mountain View does not have one. I don't believe TMS has one. I don't believe LMS has one. And does Athol have one?
No.
So that would be why they didn't give me
Okay.
information.
So then we just have pods for Twin Lakes, Spirit Lake, John Brown and Betty Kiefer, who appear to be sharing a pod, and Garwood Elementary. Okay.
And we have one at food service.
Yeah.
I was gonna say there's
And
one
I've
over
got-
there.
I've got one at my shop that I'm renting currently for paper.
Okay.
For paper storage of paper that has stuff on it, or new paper to be,
Copy paper.
Yeah, new copy paper on pallets.
So do we not store the paper over here in the junior high anymore, or is that in addition to that?
No, we don't store at the junior high anymore. When they turn that building into that, I don't even know what it
Gym.
is.
It's
like
its
a
own
weight room.
It's
Weight
the
room,
Oh.
yeah, we lost all that storage, so that forced us to get something delivered at my shop, and that's what we did
Okay,
with that pod.
gotcha, okay.
Any comments or questions for the superintendent follow-up?
So what's our monthly outlay for all the containers? That would feel good.
Is it $1,200 a month, Mike?
The original ones were $125 a month, and then, yeah, they went up. I'd have to look
Not
at.
1,200 a month,
at when
1,200 a
we-
year, sorry.
Yeah, when we purchased the second round, but when we did the second round, I believe the price went up to $150 a month on those. And I don't recall off the top of my head the timing of each school when it was.
So $1,500 to $2,000 per pod. Per year.
Well, so Mountain View doesn't have one, so then, but there's a pod over there.
Food
For
service.
food service.
Cause Kevin has a lot of catering equipment.
Does the district cater a lot of events?
The district doesn't, Chartwell's does.
So the district is paying for Chartwell's side gig?
because we moved Kevin's stuff out of the building to put a classroom in there. That was the decision that was made previously.
Probably.
Wasn't me either.
I
don't think it was any
And I
board
don't
member's
know
vote.
if that comes out of Chartwell's.
I'll look.
Are we still using that classroom?
Yeah, that's where Corey is.
Okay, that's right, oh, that's right.
Started that program.
Yep.
You know, when the preschool
Prior to
vacated,
that, wasn't that other program?
there was preschool there. and
Reach
then-
was there.
And then Reach was there.
Yeah, Reach.
Why are you laughing about that?
Yeah. So Kevin lost his space. He was using.
I have a complaint for the district to pay for his side gig. That's not appropriate.
We'll look into it and make sure that.
Thank you.
Yeah, was it in a contract somewhere that we were responsible for providing space for those items? So therefore, when we took away that classroom, that we were then responsible to provide a new space? That would be awesome to know.
So the math, the in lieu of Alex, curriculum that I shared with you, I don't even remember what the name of it was now, did you guys look at that or?
No,
Okay.
Dr. Pasley has it on her
Yeah.
agenda and she.
Okay.
Let's go and learn. was
Let's
the
go
program
learn,
that,
yeah.
yes. But, we are definitely familiar with the Imagine Math and the state pays for the license, so
Yep. Okay.
that's at least a good alternative.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely, especially if they're gonna pay for it, that's always great.
But we'll have the other one for
Yeah.
October, so we can make some
Okay.
decisions.
Anything further on the superintendent follow-up?
Just one more real quick thing on the wells. Make sure that you check with both cities to make sure that their ordinances allow for wells within their city limits as well.
To be used other than as a monitoring.
So just to confirm, your information from the State Department is that they don't know of anything that can substitute for the Alex program.
There's not one that goes, they don't have one that goes all the way through senior math.
Perfect.
But Imagine Math goes through geometry, which is better than the already, because that only goes to 8th grade. Pre-algebra. Typically they suggest Alex. That's the one that was the first one that she gave me. So I told her we were already familiar with that, we were looking for something different.
Okay.
The Let's Go Learn goes all the way to 12th grade, it's K through 12. I don't remember what the cost of it, I don't remember what it was, but.
We'll have all that for you in October. The conversation around our state math test was, interesting. With the deputy superintendent sitting in my office, and he said he just happened to have talked to, the superintendent in Cascade about their math scores, which were 73% proficient for their junior class. And so Lynn and I both said, can you give us her number, we wanna pick her brain and talk to her. And what we found out was, they only have 128 kids total in their district, And so every student has a math class, but then they also have an intervention math time in their day. And in that intervention, they're literally taking the big comprehensive ISAT that you can use as a benchmarking if you wanted to waste that much instructional time. And they are going question by question, and they are teaching kids how to answer the test questions.
Teaching for the test.
Yeah, so after we listened to her and we hung up, I looked at Ryan Cantrell and said, so what I just heard her say is they're spending the entire year teaching the kids the test. That's not good teaching, and that's a waste of instructional time. But that's what it takes to pass the test. So, they are going out to bid next year for a new test, but he doesn't think we'll get anything better than what we've already got because of the federal requirements for the test. So I don't know that it's going to change. But he admitted it's not a great indicator of whether or not our kids are doing well in school.
Any other questions on the superintendent follow-up? No? Okay. Moving on to the, misplaced myself, surprisingly. Oh, there we are. Financial follow-up. Do you have any questions on the information that was presented to us? Looks like a great summarization. Thank you. And I do appreciate the money that, the information you provided.
Yeah.
I preferred if she was providing money, that was great.
Yeah.
I do have a question. On the summary that you provided for the ESSER funds
Yes.
shows, remaining balances evidently are not encumbered. Is that
Correct.
Yeah, so we have funds available for what?
We'll leave additional curriculum. There's a couple things that we talked about. There's also, with the security camera project, the possibility of us purchasing some more of the door.
The access card.
Yes, thank you. Like on the name of them.
Yeah, I'm not sure the ESSER dollars can be used for the safety stuff. We'd have to check on that.
We did get our CEF approved for the security cameras.
Through the ESSER dollars? No. So we could use it for safety. You could also use it to offset, staff salaries.
The majority of it's just mainly ESSER 3 that's left, and then we have some ARP homeless funds. There's a plan in place to spend those down. I just have to put the plan through the state and get their approval to move forward. We got clarification on that just this afternoon that they do want us to put that forward. We're purchasing washer and dryers and paying for the hookups in several of our school sites.
So that's what the excess or the remaining balances are gonna be used for?
Yes.
Okay.
In those homeless,
In
in
the
the
homeless.
two
Yeah.
homeless
Homeless
pieces,
funds, yeah.
Yeah.
but there's still 94,000
Yeah.
in the ESSER 3 in
So
discretionary.
given our circumstances, the general fund, maybe it's appropriate to use those for salaries.
Well, salaries or some of the things that the board's already approved that we purchase out of it. So we still have some curriculum things,
Yes.
Oh,
that we need to finish, that the board's already approved. Those will come from there.
okay.
Can we use it for concrete?
We're not
We cannot
quite
use
there
it.
yet, but I'm for it.
We cannot use it for construction or capital projects.
But it's safe.
But I would still like to just use it for
Sorry.
one-time
Safety.
things. I don't wanna use it for
Holes.
ongoing things. I don't think it's appropriate to use it for salaries.
So, but for the board did approve the purchase of the access panels,
Mhm.
card readers, and so instead of using general fund dollars for that, we can use the.
I'll submit a CEF to see if they'll approve the purchase for it.
And then we'll finish off the curriculum.
So the person there.
Anybody else? Okay. Facilities follow-up.
Told you, you
So I think there was some questions maybe that you guys had last time. Like we created a document where I answered hopefully some of those. If you guys had additional questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Sounds like you guys are kind of up to speed on the well, what we found out on our end anyway. It sounds
Right.
like the torch has kind of been passed a little bit in a sense regarding other folks are involved trying to change that. So I don't have any other information other than what we found, which I put on that list.
Okay. Yeah, and I did mention to Lisa, I'm extremely concerned about the concrete at Lakeland High School.
Mm-hmm.
It is a significant liability issue for this district in its entirety.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand how it has gone so long without it becoming some form of a priority.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to know what we're going to do about it, because
Yeah, my recommendation, if you remember in the workshop, is to start knocking some of these projects out in volume, is that we incorporate a project like that with an exterior renovation.
we can't
So-
wait for 4 or 5 years to fix the concrete.
Well, I know, but we can start with, we've started the exteriors now, we can start adding concrete to it. I got a bid to do Lakeland High School a year ago, I think.
How much was the bid?
$120,000.
Why was that never brought to the board?
It was brought to my superiors, I don't know, this is the conversation we had last time, I couldn't tell you.
No.
I'm an information giver, where it goes after me, I don't know, I can't take responsibility for that, so.
I don't think it was last year. 'Cause
It was pretty recent, it was when Brian was here, I think it was last,
I think it was Becky.
So,
no, it was sooner than that.
so what you're saying is you gave the information to Brian,
Correct.
and that's where the ball
Correct.
stopped.
Correct.
Okay,
And
that's
me
fine.
not having any part of the budget or knowing anything, I give information and I want it done too, we've had this conversation before, and so.
No, I hear you, but the problem I struggle with is the only reason I found out about the concrete at Lakeland High School
Mhm.
is I had the luxury of parking front row for a football game.
Yeah.
And then I got to walk through a patch of gravel and then a big hole in the concrete, and then everything was lopsided, and I'm like, what the heck?
Yeah.
This is nuts.
No.
And then I walked it with the activities director, who explained to me some of how we got here and the fact that the school's been trying to advocate for itself for
Yeah.
a few years.
Yeah.
And my reality is, and I realize the board's never heard, that we have a major concrete issue at Lakeland High School, and
Right.
this has been ongoing
Yeah.
and growing
Yeah.
for years, and it needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
And
And that's not the only place, that's
No.
why I
No,
asked
I
about
under-
concrete.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
understand that.
There's tons we need to do.
Well,
Yeah.
and the reality is, I don't know what all we need to do concrete-wise, because
Right.
I haven't seen anything that significant at the schools that I have
Mhm.
visited. But discovering that on a Friday night, as
Right.
I'm like, watching out for the elderly people, praying that they don't get trapped in the holes.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
are you kidding
So,
me?
yeah, your guys' frustrations are 150% my frustrations too. Like, I do the legwork and I get the information and I pass it along, and then I simply wait. Are we doing it or are we not doing it, right? Well, when nothing comes back to me, I just assume that the decision, it's over and done with. But I want it done just like everybody else does. So, we're in a situation, I would prioritize Lakeland High School at the top of the list. We're in a situation where we're going to have to go out to bid, and I would recommend that we start knocking out volume, like not just do Lakeland High School. We hit all the older buildings. Spirit Lake needs attention, Apple needs attention,
Right.
All that old construction. Lakeland Middle School's got areas. The only schools that are exempt for now would be your newer construction, Twin, Timberlake High School, things like that. But
Right.
I vote. My vote's always been let's get with it, right? But I don't know where the funding is, and I just don't know what was ever said to you guys or what was relayed to you, so.
No, and
that's-
I hear you on that,
Yeah.
but I know, cause Lisa did mention to me, well, you know, the board just allocated money to go here, there and everywhere.
Mhm.
But my response to her was the board knew absolutely nothing about a concrete issue.
Yeah,
So the board was not able to say, well, hey, this is a liability risk for the
Mhm.
district.
Mhm.
This needs to be addressed today.
yeah, yeah.
So that's where I'm a little
Yeah, we don't know
frustrated.
about it
So-
until we experience it
And-
ourselves.
Exactly.
Just like the bleachers up
Yep.
at Timberlake and,
Yep.
and Lakeland.
So what I did to try to help you guys out, hopefully it will when you get time to look at it,
Do
is
a
I did
walkabout.
a 30-year
Yeah.
maintenance matrix essentially.
It's
It'll
out there.
outline all that stuff, it'll outline what we've done, I expanded it from the last time you guys saw it, I spent some
Right.
time on it. And
Okay.
it'll show you from, you know, updating the landscaping to a modern, no maintenance, hardly any irrigation to save money that way, to infrastructure inside the buildings, it kind of spells it all out.
Okay.
What it doesn't do is it doesn't put it on a specific year because I don't have a crystal ball.
I
So,
would
but
expect
it's there. So we
Right.
as a group can look at it and go, sidewalks, let's knock that thing to the top of the list. We're gonna do that this coming summer or whatever.
Okay.
I'm at a disadvantage from the money standpoint, so I don't know, how we're gonna fix that,
Which is
but
why Mike is doing these board updates now, so that he can be part of the conversation, because I had no idea that he and Brian had a conversation about concrete, cause it never came to the district
Right.
level. That's
Right.
Well,
what
on
Brian
this
was-
concrete too, we gotta remember, that concrete needs to be sealed. If you look at the football, there's little gaps behind the bleachers where the water hits,
Mhm.
and all it's doing is eroding that concrete. So pretty soon those bleachers are gonna fall apart. So they gotta be fixed, they have to be sealed, or it's just gonna keep going, and it's gonna get worse
Yeah,
and worse and worse.
that was actually part of our, we
Yeah.
put brackets in there, and
Right.
part of that was sealing those cracks.
Right,
Because
because you
on
see on
super
the
one
other, on
side-
the good side,
Yeah.
there's little notches
Yeah.
right behind those brackets.
Right, yep,
And
yep, and you were
those
walking
brackets
in.
are probably vibrating in there, which is popping the concrete out.
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
so it's gonna just get worse and worse.
so I wanna do, I'm a volume person, I wanna start knocking out multiple projects at a time, that's why I said let's incorporate some sidewalks in with exteriors, because now we're doing two
Yeah.
fairly substantial projects, it's just, how do we wanna approach that, where do we wanna start?
Right.
But Lakeland, for instance, would be, that's another exterior that needs attention too, but we can certainly just do concrete, but again, like I said before, I wanna do concrete in other areas too. So I don't wanna just do one site, let's say.
Do we
So,
get a discount? Is there any kind of discount on volume when you're talking about
Yes.
concrete?
You can get, probably, if we're gonna go out to bid, which we're gonna have to because of the numbers involved, I'm sure that there would be,
It would be
Something
recommended
they-
to do all and then phases and see what kind of
yeah, so the first step would
pricing they
be,
can give us.
yeah, I'll go out and I'll determine priorities. Obviously, Lakeland is a big one, and then I'll go down from there, to find out what we're dealing with fund-wise, what's it gonna cost us to do what I wanna do, and then we can always take one off for the summer and do it next summer or whatever. But I'm in 100% agreement. You're not gonna tell me anything that I don't already wanna do or have thought about. I've passed the info along because it's on my brain, that's where it stopped. So,
All it
Well-
takes is money.
yeah, yeah.
Alright, so
It's-
one of the things I mentioned to the chair is,
We'll address that after this audit.
is the,
Right.
we set aside, money for John Brown next year, but we also have Spirit Lake and Athol getting recited next year. If we push John Brown out one more year, you could take the money that you have set aside for that and get the concrete done out of this year's plant facility levy.
That becomes a priority issue.
Yeah.
To make those decisions. On one hand, you read the letter earlier, the wonderful letter, criticizing John Brown, and then so, are we willing to say, oh, well, we just put it off another year?
Okay, well, if we don't put it off and we just go ahead and do John Brown, are we gonna have that same attitude when we get hit with lawsuits for injuries because of the hazard? It is a significant
Michelle, I
hazard.
understand that perfectly. I've been in and out of Lakeland High School more times than you can imagine, and I know exactly what that concrete situation is over there. It is not good. All it took was a walk in there and you found it out.
Well, actually, I found it out by going to a football game because I usually go in on the student side. So that's my bad. But, from
Well, you
this
could
point
save money
forward.
if you knock out a bad section, use the good sections around that section, and just frame in 2 2x4s on that. You know,
Yeah,
use
right.
that little mini frickin' concrete truck.
Yeah.
That you rent, that's less than 3 yards probably,
Yeah.
one section.
Mhm.
Knock that out, and it's done. I mean, it wouldn't take much, a couple guys to do it,
Mhm.
you know, which would save the district tons of money instead of
Mhm.
just going blanket and go, oh, get it all redone.
Mhm.
Maybe you can get a K-Tech crew to come over.
Yeah.
It just depends on how much you wanna do.
Right.
How much volume do you wanna do, to put,
Doesn't, yeah.
we totally do that, a section at a time.
Right.
You know, to put all that on like my guys would be a monumental task to be able to hit, a lot of areas in the summertime, I guess,
Right.
would be the only issue.
Yeah, manpower.
Right, right.
And I'm
So-
not trying to state that you haven't thought of this, but can you reflect back on stuff that you brought to Brian that maybe Lisa is not aware about? Because I assure you, if she's not aware about it, this board is not aware about it. So if you
Well,
can,
yeah, you wouldn't be.
cause I just wanna make sure that, I
Well,
mean,
it's just
'cause
like
I.
it's just like the leaks, the roof's leaking, right? So, you know, they don't fix it, and then we have a volleyball game, and the roof starts leaking, so they have to move it. Well, all it takes is a little enclosure up there to keep the wind off of it, or something like that. Some 2x4s, but, you know, if he's not given the go-ahead, he's not gonna do it.
Yeah, I mean, things like, let me bring up like parking lots. So it took me a couple years to get everybody on board, previous administration, that parking lots, if you don't maintain parking lots and you lose a parking lot,
Right,
tear it all up and start over. We know the cost involved there. So I finally got them to allow me to start back on a summer rotation where we do crack seals, we restripe, we seal the thing. An example would be, I was told that we can't do that anymore, and so that, my momentum got stopped in its tracks because we had the siding project to do. So again, I'm being told, stop. Okay, I had, I don't know, 5 to 6 years of moving that direction, right? And then it comes to a halt. Now what do? You know, I'm being told like, I have to stop, we don't have the
Right.
funds for it, right? So I never even got through the entire district. That's something that once you get through the entire district, now you start back at the original school you did and you continue on, it's preventative, right?
Right.
And so there's a lot of scenarios like that, you know, that happened to me since I've been doing this, that, I mean, I think I told you about that one, about the parking lots being on hold when we did the siding project. Brian said, you know, but there, I mean, I can
Cause
go
Brian
through-
ran the district.
I can go through lots of different things like that, you know, that, again, I would recommend, I think we ought to do this, and well, give me the information, and I don't hear about it again. And so,
I think we need a priority list with like a code or something on there that says, this has to be fixed now, today. Can't wait. Number 2's can wait a little while, 3's down the road.
Well, the intention of having Mike come monthly now to the board meetings and do this is he'll be able to bring that to your attention. So if something comes up, he can say,
Needs to be done.
we have to get this taken care of, and then the board is aware.
Well, this is why we asked,
Side-
this is why I asked a long time ago for, I wanted walkthroughs of all the buildings and I wanted what needs to be done. We asked for this and we got it,
Statute
kinda,
says by
but.
statute, we have to do it every year.
Mhm.
Legally, the board is required to make sure it's done every year. Broken record, been saying it for 4 years.
Yeah.
The only thing we can do is wait till we get through the audit, see where the money is, cause we already know we got a money issue.
Mhm.
Figure out where all that is, and we're gonna have to have a workshop, we're gonna have to sit
Mhm.
down, and we're just gonna have to lay it out and say, you know, and figure out where it's coming from. Sounds like we got too much staff in places, sounds like, you know, maybe we can, all these pods, I noticed on a couple of the pods, they said like, well, we only use a quarter of it and all the rest of it belongs to
We'd like to
this.
get rid of it if we could.
Yeah.
Right, and most of those pods are filled with old desks and old chairs, and we've moved away from individual student desks. we had to pull them back out during the 21-22
Yeah.
school year because of social distancing. But if our teachers had their way, every classroom would just have tables in it. We wouldn't have the individual student desks anymore because you can just do a lot more collaboratively with kids that way. I don't anticipate that we're gonna have a need, where that's gonna shift back, I guess.
Yeah.
So what the principals are asking is, can we just surplus those desks and maybe make some money off of them and get rid of the ones, because none of them like that.
That 30-year this in the header of that, but
And the
30-year
$1,200 was a
maintenance
year, not a
rentals.
month.
Yeah, so then we can take that
Per
matrix
It's-
and from there we
it
can
sounds like we went
prioritize.
up
and-
to-
Well,
and
where the
work out.
priorities.
Yeah, it's just, it's
Yeah.
on a document of what the need would be, so.
Yeah.
But sidewalks are right at the top, they're right up there, I mean, that's the thing with a lot of our districts, you can just
Did you
point
guys see
at all kinds of
that,
stuff and
the
it needs
link
to
that
be
he's
dealt
talking
with.
about at the top of his document says 30-year maintenance,
Yeah.
maintenance
Yeah.
matrix.
Yep. I was under
Yeah.
the impression that all of our roofs
Yeah.
were fixed
Yeah,
a
yeah,
few
you're not
years
getting
ago.
through it.
And the whole.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
were
I
getting
had
that on the
never reached out.
Yeah.
update
I
all
shot
the
them
time.
inside.
That's what
We're gonna
I
get
was
some
too
shots there.
until
Yeah,
he
yeah,
just
he put a work order
shared
for
that
it
they still
before
have
they did that.
sections that
Yeah.
hadn't been redone.
Yeah, we weren't
What?
aware of that. We were
Yeah,
told
no,
that
we were told that they were all
Everything
brand
was all
new.
done
Yeah,
with the
no,
roofs.
that's not
Nope.
true.
What's that? I'm sorry, I didn't.
Becky had told the board that all of the roofs were new, everything completely buttoned
Did
up.
she fix
Every single building?
Every single
We
building.
didn't know, we didn't need to hit every single building. I have a roof matrix too, which I think I shared a while ago with you guys. It has replacement schedule on there, but we did not hit every single roof in the district because we didn't need, there were roofs that didn't need it.
Right.
So-
Well, the
Until now.
The
Well,
information, yeah. Well, no, the information was that there were no longer any roofs in the district where there were no warranties. That that everything was warranted 50-year, 25 and 50-year warranties on every roof in the district.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that's not true.
No, the only thing that's warranted is
We do have, we
Oh,
actually
she
do,
said-
we do
yeah.
have 50-year warranties
No.
on them.
the only warranties that we have are, the roofs that we've done in the last 7 years.
And what is
So-
the warranty on those roofs?
A 30-year, I think, is the highest warranty we have on a roof.
That's,
Yeah.
Now, the manufacturer could warranty the shingle for limited lifetime or 50-year,
Right,
whatever.
right.
But as far as the vendor's concerned, 30 is gonna be the max that you're gonna see on a
Right, or
composite.
25.
On a composite, on a
Yeah.
membrane, it'd be 20.
Yeah, so can we have that information, because that's not the information the board or the public was given, so the public's under the impression that all these roofs, not the whole district,
Right.
but all the roofs that were replaced are 50-year warranty.
Oh, gotcha.
It was, and that's all we've ever heard, and.
Yeah.
So we need that information too, so we really know.
Yeah, I'll get you the info on the roofs that we've done in the
Yeah.
last 7 years since I've been here, that'll
Sure.
carry a warranty
Yeah.
for sure, yeah, yep.
Okay,
and
perfect.
keep in mind, there are two things on roof warranties. One is product, and
Right.
the other is who put it on.
Right,
Mhm.
And those are always separate.
yeah,
And that's a kind of a question, the roof leak you fixed over at the junior high.
Yeah.
Was that a workmanship problem, or was that a
Mhm.
product problem?
Workmanship problem, and they're no longer around,
Yeah.
so,
That's what you run into.
yeah,
And it's
it's
not-
unfortunate.
Warranties don't matter.
Realize
This is a fly by night.
yeah,
One of the other things on this list, was the concern of the locker rooms at Lakeland High School and the, sewer. The last time we had a backup over there, Lisa actually got involved, she did pretty good, she called the appropriate authorities after hours. They pulled out, and this happens all the time, just so you guys know, at a lot of locations, it comes in spurts, but they pulled out, nails, screws, saw blades, all kinds of debris out of the main drain, which then you start flushing stuff like you're supposed to, and that gets hung up in there. That was the cause of that issue. Every issue that we have in the district related to backed up sewer is all because of what's being flushed down there. And you can pretty much, if you can think of it, they'll flush it.
Oh, who's flushing
We've pulled all kinds of stuff out, door stops, you name it. I mean, it's a pretty rampant problem, and I call it vandalism because that's what it is. But it's not an issue with our infrastructure. It's just, show me a sewer that can handle that kind of abuse. It's pretty tough. So, when you guys see stuff like that or hear something like that, it's because there's something
Right.
that's not supposed to be. So,
right.
Well, it's just water backing up then, right? Cause it's not
No.
Well, it's
Sewer.
and it would be sewer, because you gotta, depending on where the plug is, you know, they're flushing stuff, and then it's working its way back up,
Right.
upstream.
Yeah.
And upstream are floor drains, things like
Yeah.
that, you know, that's gonna be the path of least resistance, and it will be raw sewage that comes up, and so that's where you gotta get, you know.
Administratively, over the long haul, if I were in a position to look at it, I would find an individual who's responsible for that somewhere. You
Mhm.
know, if you do a proper investigation, you can come up with it. And that person and his parents are responsible for all the costs of whatever it takes to rectify that problem. And that kid doesn't graduate from high school until that bill's paid.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, so I always pass the information along to the principals, and oftentimes they'll take the information, and what you'll see is they'll close restrooms down, like restrooms that are in question where we have a lot of issue going on, they'll close them down and force the kids into another one, and I don't know where it goes from there. I think sometimes they'll find out who did it, but the restitution part,
Well,
I
a lot of times
completely
it
agree with
won't
that.
because of the circumstances, but it
Yeah.
only takes one or two good cases
Mhm.
and handle it that way.
Right.
And that becomes the deterrent.
Yep,
For the
yeah.
future. Not necessarily 100%, but it would cut a lot of it out.
Right. Yep, I agree.
Yeah, and they do pull video to see who was in the bathroom, but what's hard is, like, the last time it backed up, it was in the evening during a basketball game.
Yeah, there was some.
Well, and
event
it
going
can
on.
take a while for everything to back up
Mhm.
off of based on,
Right,
you
so
know,
the
a pen
last
being,
person
You bet.
who
and then
flushed the
it,
toilet maybe
Absolutely.
isn't the person who put the
No.
stuff.
Yeah.
That's,
it can take
Yeah.
a week.
right, and so they definitely do their due diligence, but it's super challenging.
Should we clarify there's not cameras in the bathroom, they're just outside?
They're
the
outside.
bathroom.
Thank you, yes,
Yeah.
not in the bathroom.
I think there needs to be more supervision in some of those rooms too. And they've kinda gotten away from that, you know, they have offices right there, well, they cover up the windows.
Mhm.
And, you know, it's like, if you go in that one, locker room at Lakeland High School, almost all the ceiling tiles are bad, because kids are putting stuff up in the ceiling tiles. I mean, they found beer cans up there, everything.
Mhm.
Wow.
Hatcher went up there and he was finding all kinds of stuff. And they replaced all of them just lately because of the fire, but, you know, that's why those offices are there. I mean, you don't have to sit there and look at the kids, but you can be in there and make sure nothing's going on.
Right,
It's
so
part
you're
of
more
it's a
present.
deterrent. I mean,
Well, you don't leave,
Yeah.
you don't leave
Cover
kids in a
deterrent
classroom by
stuff.
themselves, why would you do it for PE?
Mhm.
Yeah. I'll talk to Jimmy about that.
So the playground structures at Betty Kiefer and Garwood both are out of commission?
Garwood is out of commission, based on my recommendation to Jake last school year. I went and stopped and looked at it. That's a topic of conversation that we need to keep on our brain. I treat play structures as any other piece of mechanical equipment that has to be on a rotational schedule, cause they only last so long. And what happens is or my guys end up removing parts off of them to keep them safe, if that makes sense. So.
Oh, yeah.
Garwood, I looked at it with him and I was not happy with what I saw. The welds are cracking. It's beyond repair because you can't buy parts for it anymore. And Betty Kiefer, which is another reason why I created the monthly play structure inspection sheets, is to keep tabs on that, because I'm seeing things that should be on our brain to, you know, put on a rotation. And Betty Kiefer, I haven't gone out and looked at that one yet, so. But
Wasn't
they
it Garwood?
They do monthlies.
Wasn't it Garwood that they were told that the PTO
Yes.
was told that they couldn't
Yes, yes. They
buy
raised
the
money.
play structure
And
even
so-
after they came up with the money?
Yeah, I can tell you since I've been doing this, nothing's gone through my
It
department
wasn't
regarding
equitable.
structure purchase. I don't know how they're doing it, if it's
'Cause other
fundraising
schools
or
weren't
whatever,
getting new.
but,
Right.
anyway.
Was it
Play structures,
equitable?
then that's not fair to other schools that weren't getting new
Yeah.
play
I-
equipment.
Yeah, I think it's easy to
Life's
overlook
not
play
fair,
structures.
it's just how it is.
I think it's easy
Yep.
to overlook the play structures. If they're kind of out of sight, out of mind in a sense, and I don't think people think about it, you know, but it needs to be something that my biggest fear is somebody getting hurt, and that's why, I created that sheet. I do not wanna have that hanging on me, and I will shut one down if I need to, because I don't feel comfortable. And
Well,
that's why I did it Garwood.
Super upsetting that here we are in September finding out school started, and we're just now finding out that a playground structure was deemed unfit for kids to play on at the end of last school year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I do appreciate you taking the time to
Yes.
inspect the play equipment. But I know we don't have, I don't think we have any protocol with respect to how the board would even step in to do anything. Because it's my understanding that usually the PTAs or the schools themselves.
It used to be that the district actually paid for the equipment.
Okay,
When I was still a principal at Betty Kiefer, we had this amazing, and Garwood had exactly the same one, this amazing wooden
mhm,
fort structure that was really solid, we had no issues with, except that the safety inspector came in and said that the slide was too tall for 5-year-olds. It was perfect for 6-year-olds, too tall for 5-year-olds. So we had to rip the whole thing. Somebody at the district office made the decision to just rip the whole thing out, at both schools. And, they bought Betty Kiefer one little tiny piece of equipment for all the kids to play on. Prior to that, the district had taken care of all of that,
Yeah.
okay.
so.
When we built those new elementary schools, we provided all of that, and that's where that wooden structure came from.
Yeah,
That
and it was
original.
really a nice, the kids loved it, it was big enough for lots of kids to be on safely, but, yeah, they just.
And I would think the district should provide
Mhm.
play equipment, I don't think, but I've been told that the PTAs and all those are supposed to be.
Well, they're doing it because somebody decided that the district wasn't going to pay for it
Right.
anymore. And a piece of equipment is $15,000 to $30,000.
Oh, I know, it's
Yeah.
not cheap.
Not cheap,
I
and so
swear
to
not
ask
cheap.
our PTUs
It's
to
really
raise that kind of
expensive.
money,
Yeah.
and then for them to raise it and not get to use it.
You pop
Yep.
it, it's over.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay.
So it
Used
sounds
to
like.
be, I can't remember who they were now, but there was a local outfit that built those wood forts at the
Rainbow.
time
They're here in
that we dealt
Spokane.
with.
Rainbow.
Randy says Rainbow Fire.
It is rainbow.
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds like maybe we need to schedule a facilities workshop to kind of deal with, figure out how we wanna do, after the audit presentation in October,
Yeah.
to figure out how we wanna move forward with concrete, what you wanna do about the play equipment, and some of these other issues, and maybe have Mike kind of go through what he thinks his priority list would be, and get input from the board.
Okay. Well, thank you for providing the information.
Sure, did you guys have any
This is
other
awesome.
questions about
Thank you.
anything else?
No, not at this time.
You've been on the hot seat long enough.
Oh,
Well, I don't think you're in the hot seat.
I don't feel
No,
that way.
the-
Just giving information.
Yeah.
This is more a question for Lisa, or maybe Jessica, but the preschool equipment for Twin Lakes, where's that money coming from?
We, remember at the beginning of last school year, we had that $25,000 donation. That was, so that money's been set aside for the preschool play equipment.
Okay.
And I did double check with Jessica that it actually was set aside,
That's a plus.
and it was. Cause I
Wow.
panicked when I found out
Right.
that other things that we had set money aside for wasn't there, so.
Any other questions on facilities?
Well, now that you brought that up, I don't really remember that, but anyways, so we're gonna put new equipment out there at Twin Lakes?
For
That's what
preschool.
we're doing?
Yep, and, it's part of the fencing that we're doing, so it'll be fenced in.
Part of the fencing project, yeah.
So how much does it cost to move the equipment over here that was for the preschool?
It's permanent, so.
That is over there?
Mhm. So the equipment that Tiffany and Mike just, made the decision to buy is movable, so that if at some point we have to move preschool to a different location, you can actually pick it up and move it. This is like in the ground with concrete and, it's permanent, so.
I don't have any more questions.
moving on to policy 4200. Trustee Quimby wanted us to revisit this, due to the policy's, stance that, employees won't be, district employees cannot have a leadership role in the school support organization. Well, Dave, the policy says
I
district
see that.
employees.
Yeah, I see that now. I didn't see it before. Yeah.
Well, I can't follow up on you until we're in the middle of the meeting.
That's right.
Yeah, okay. So that, in a sense, solves the situation, correct?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. All right.
I don't know, I was just thinking about it, and I feel like we shouldn't be able to tell people what to do on their off time. You know, I mean, what are we, Gestapo? You can't
Some
do that.
days.
You can't.
Some days.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
I agree.
So, Mr. Hatcher can remain in his leadership
I
role.
would like to look at the wording of the principal must be consulted prior to any expenditures of funds raised. I don't think that that is the district's responsibility to tell them how they're gonna spend their money.
I think they just have to let them know what they're doing, right? Kinda
Yeah,
like
they
that.
would do it
Kinda
in
like-
coordination with, but not.
Yeah, I mean, like the wrestling club buying us new mats, you know, I mean, that's an extra outside organization.
I understand that, but the way it's worded is that the PTA, PTO, PTU, whatever they're being called, cannot expend funds, period, without consulting the principal. This doesn't say if it's
Yeah.
school related or if it's going to be something donated to the school by the PTO, PTU, PTA.
Right.
I don't think that
Well,
our
what
principals need to have
the
that control over their expenditures.
The discussion, though, that was brought up by some of the committee members who are on PTAs is that they will provide like the items for the for the school store.
Mhm.
And so the principal needs to give approval for what they're bringing into the store to make sure that it's okay.
I understand that. It's very,
The wording is.
the wording is very absolute and that they cannot expend any funds without consulting the,
Where is it? What part is
It's,
it?
on the break right.
yeah, it's
Right.
between the two
Okay.
pages.
Oh, I see.
And the
okay.
principal must be consulted prior to any expenditure of funds raised. I
Yeah, that should be that way.
that's pretty absolute.
It's definitely it's a collaborative experience.
Yeah.
and it's- yeah.
But if they're,
I mean, we can take it back. I just remember most of this was all written by everybody else that was sitting at the table. It wasn't us.
okay.
So it was, yeah, all the other people that were there and.
It just says consulted, it doesn't,
And
you
Lynn.
have to get approval. It
But-
just say you have to have a conversation, basically, right?
Well, yeah, really what it's saying is, don't go out and buy something and the principal doesn't know about it, and suddenly it appears in the building and he's saying, where did this come from?
Yeah.
It just says
Avoid
they have
those
to
kind of
be.
circumstances,
should be
I
saying
think
that
is
too. So would you like it taken back and reworded?
But I can go back and just tell them there was an issue with, you know, what does
You
this
just want
mean?
him informed about any expenditures.
Yeah, that would be fine. I just,
Would you like us to change
if they're
must
using
to
it
should?
for not something that is, you know, if they're using funding to pay for a luncheon for the PTU, they don't need the principal to be consulted on that expenditure. But it says, prior to any expenditures of funds raised.
Yeah.
So I just think that they're supposed to be a separate organization.
Oh yeah, I remember this.
We,
I think what it is, it's a, I remember the conversation now, and I think that even came up in the conversation. I remember them going back and forth. Well, we can take it back, because it's all one thought. The specific fundraising activities must be approved in advance by the principal, and the principal must be consulted prior to any expenditures of funds raised. It's one thing. So if you're raising for ABC, you can't go spend ABC until the principal says, yeah, that's what it's for, we're doing ABC. But
Because the fundraised funds
right.
have to be used
So
for
maybe
the
we can make
direct or
it more
indirect support
clear.
of the school.
Yep,
Mhm.
yep. Instead of it looking like no matter what.
The other thing is, you know, you maybe do a fundraising campaign for something specific, and then somebody decides, no, we don't wanna spend it for that, we wanna spend it for this over here.
Mhm.
So this principal has
Yeah.
some oversight of
Yeah.
that issue
Right.
to avoid those kind of conflicts.
one more thing, so, okay, I'm okay with that. Next paragraph down, all equipment purchased by or donated to the school support organizations, or shouldn't that be by? All equipment purchased by or donated by school support organizations becomes the property of the district, not donated to.
Purchased or donated to the school.
Well, if somebody donates something.
Like the
to
popcorn
PTA,
machine to the PTA
Yeah.
is actually now the schools.
Is now actually, and it's in the school, belongs to the school district. Part of that, kind of going back to my mind, part of that is to avoid somebody donating something that maybe you don't want, or is not appropriate for the age level that it's gonna be housed at, or, you know, those kind of situations. Not all gifts are necessarily a gift, some are a
Right.
curse.
One man's junk is another man's treasure, Bob.
I understand if the organization is donating it to the school district, that's why I say donated by school support organization. But if it's donated to the, how can we tell a separate organization that something that's donated to them, it's ours, we actually own it? Even though you are a separate entity, separate legal entity, if something is donated to you, it is now our property.
Well, usually they give it.
So
to
then
the
why
school.
do they exist?
Well,
Cause if
all
any
I-
money donated to the booster club, that all of a sudden is not the booster club's money,
Not
that's
if
the
they
school's
go
money.
awry, it all comes to the school. If they
they're
go
out-
off on a
they're out-
different angle and
they're
we have
out
to shut them down,
raising
it all
money.
becomes the school's property.
They're raising money for students of Lakeland they're using.
Cause that was one of the concerns I had, cause I'm like, that doesn't seem right, and everybody's like, no, it's what happens, it's in statute. I'm like, oh, alrighty then.
Yeah, you know, the necessity of needing the policy, because, yeah, I wasn't at all of these meetings, but the couple that I was evident that there's a lot of unknowns, or, you know, thinking that one handles one thing, but then there are, you know, discussing, no, that's not how it works like this, and then we had the discussion because the words kept being interchanged, bylaws and standing rules, and I said, no, they're two separate things, and I was corrected, no, they're the same, I'm like, yeah, no, they're not, they're two separate
Called
things,
different things.
you know,
Yeah.
So there was a lot of things that I was trying to even understand what they were talking about because they were mixing the language, but it's not the same. And then some of them have no, if they're not national, they have no, it's just whatever they made up, you know?
Right.
Yeah, it was definitely something that was needed, so everybody's on the same page kind of thing, but, I highlighted those. You could take it back and just have them go back through it, you know? About the donated by or donated to, but supposedly the reason they're in the district and operating through the district is because it's all for the district anyways. It's not for them to use the district to, make them their own self, you know, so.
Solely for the
In
benefit of
essence,
the district.
Yeah, and in most instances, anytime, and I'm sure you're aware of that, anytime any of those types of organizations dissolve, it usually goes to, yeah, the district or the city or whomever they're operating underneath.
Okay.
But I highlighted them, I mean, we can go back and, see if the wording can be fixed, you know?
I'm on the second one specifically,
Buy or two.
buy or two.
Yeah.
The legality of it is probably my biggest concern.
Okay.
Well, so do you think that it should state purchased by or donated by school support area?
Mhm.
Okay, so that can just be a clerical correction and we don't have to take it back to the committee.
That's true.
Sounds good to me.
Sounds great to me, because if you saw the list.
No, I get it. I understand that there's.
But it needs to be, this is the board's business, I mean, this is
Mhm.
what we're supposed to do,
Mhm.
so,
Right.
yeah.
So just do purchased by or donated by,
Mm-hmm.
okay, by the,
Maybe if you just purchased or donated by,
Yeah.
move the by to the end.
Yep.
yep.
Okay. Alright,
Sounds good to me.
and then the first paragraph, do you want any revisions on that?
I don't love it, but I understand that it's a thought. The whole piece is
One
all
fluid thought.
One thought. Yeah.
Okay,
It does read bad going there, and the other thing is this has no page numbers on it,
yeah,
and
There's just a lot of commas in that sentence.
Yeah.
To try and
commas are your
keep-
friend,
Yeah.
cause we can either eat Bob, or we
Yeah.
can eat Bob.
Or eat, Bob. Yeah. Did you have dinner? Me neither.
Not lately.
Yeah, and some of this formatting too
Yeah.
needs to be, so,
Yeah, we'll need
page
to-
numbers, formatting, and,
I'm not sure what transpired here. Okay,
those, the lingo, there, you can change those words.
so it's clerical corrections, so there's no
Yep.
action that needs to be taken on it,
That's
it's just clerical.
Okay.
Okay.
Except that the action is to approve the
The changes.
approve the policy as a whole with that grammatical correction.
Okay,
Has it?
the policy's already been approved. Dave
Okay.
asked for it to be brought back because through our discussion, it came about, I mean, the policy clearly states that it was brought to my attention that, you know, why can't they be involved? Maybe they
Mhm.
just shouldn't touch the money, and I know we had this conversation, but that caveat's in there that as long as the employee is approved by the principal or the superintendent,
It's fine.
it's fine. So that kind of resolves everything.
Yeah.
So the policy's already been approved, but if
Okay.
you wanna, and usually if there's just a clerical error, we don't have to re-approve it, but we can.
Okay.
'Cause
It just
is
had the action, so I
actionable.
just was
Well,
double
that's
checking.
because I didn't know
Gotcha.
where we would go with it, so if it doesn't say action, we can't do action.
Gotcha.
And this is old business. God. Okay. Any other questions? Student clubs.
There's just one new one on there, and it's not actually new, but, the
It's
bowling
the bowling
club.
club.
You
Yeah.
had, just asked me to make sure that we have a student leader, and we have a student leader,
Right.
so.
So I will move to approve the bowling club for THS.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on to the MindTap curriculum. So apparently, what was presented in supplemental before was the whole MindTap platform with everything. So it's just being brought back in the fact that they want to use simply the graphic design class through MindTap. Oh, so what she wants is the series Microsoft Office 365 and Publisher 2019 Comprehensive. Why are you people laughing?
Because we're delirious.
Yeah.
We're stuck on eating, Bob, sorry.
Poor Bob.
It's been a long Monday.
It's gonna be a mean.
I hear you there.
I knew we were gonna get in trouble.
Alright. Okay, so, any questions on what this MindTap curriculum is?
No.
Okay. And I'll make a motion, to approve the, MindTap Shelley Cashman Series Microsoft Office 365 and Publisher 2019 Comprehensive.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Did you vote, Bob?
I did.
Okay, hearing none, the motion carries.
You're checking on me, I can tell.
Well, you're just quiet. Usually I hear you. Alright, so we have new business. We have lighting upgrade at LMS football field.
Yeah, so this is good news. Lakeland Junior Tackle, will pay for the equipment and the installation. It's about a $10,000 bill, to upgrade the lighting because, they use that football field. So there'll be no cost to the district, and they have, been working with Mike.
I move to approve. Will you entertain a motion?
Go for it.
I move to approve the lighting project for LMS football field as presented and paid for by Junior Tackle.
Second.
We have a motion and a
Question.
second. All
Yeah.
in favor of that one
More
motion?
discussion?
Say
Question.
more discussion. We're having more discussion.
Normally I would go right for it.
Is it about the dumpster?
No.
Cause I have a question
The
on that one,
dumpster
but
fire.
But that might be a good question. No, my question is, do we know who this contractor is that's going to do the work?
I think Mike is aware because the conversation.
My concern is, we're talking about high wire stuff here, and, you know, and there's certain liabilities that come into play, both from the electrical standpoint as well as.
I did ask for a certificate of insurance from the company completing the work.
Okay.
I didn't hear that.
Certificate of.
Certificate of liability
Yeah.
insurance. She already requested it.
Oh, okay, all right.
So as long as they I will amend my motion to include, as long as they will
Sure.
insure
Like-
appropriately.
Okay. Before we go there, the junior tackle wants a dumpster. Is that something that we need to vote on?
I don't think so.
Okay, so within the building and the district, we're taking care of whatever dumpster issues there are.
Is there space and appropriate?
Kind of by that concession. So,
Can kids
So
get into it?
I hope not. Hopefully there
They
will be
didn't
a
put
locking.
locks.
Dumpster.
They didn't
There will
put
be a
locks
locking.
on all the
Yeah. mechanism.
dumpsters later.
Remember, this is junior high.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we know what the
Put locks
junior high
on.
kids are capable of.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to approve the junior tackle,
Lighting upgrade at
request to pay for and install the new LED lights on the LMS football field, as long as they provide a certificate of insurance from the contractor.
Correct.
And we think we had a second, right? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Alright, next we have food service equipment. I don't think he needs any more, he needs a storage lot. Sorry. Sometimes I shouldn't say anything, I know.
Are these for in our schools or are these for the catering?
They're not for the catering, I can tell you that. They are for in the schools, they're for use with the National School Lunch Program. I'm trying to remember exactly without pulling it up.
Yeah.
There's steam tables that will be used in the schools, transport carts are for the schools, and the last one was tilting kettles, and those would be used in the central
In
kitchen.
the kitchen.
Yeah,
Okay.
so all of them have been approved by the state, so they're good to go once I have your approval to move forward. We
No.
completed the bid process for them.
Some of these items have more than one bid,
Yes.
and so is the recommendation to take the low bid and?
Yes, the low bid is what has been approved by the state already. So we went through the bid process in order to even get to the point that the state would look at it.
Okay.
So, the state takes the lowest bid, that's our recommendation, is to move forward with the lowest bid. I just wanted to provide you all the documentation related to the request.
And these are being purchased from the
Food service.
Food service
food services budget?
Yeah, we had to complete a document, if you guys remember from last spring. We had excess revenue in
Mhm.
that fund due to all of the additional revenue that we received during the COVID years.
Right.
And so they require that we spend down that fund balance. And so these are, there might be, I think we have one more purchase that, for steam jacketed kettles for
Okay.
the central kitchen that should be coming forward, and once we do those, that will be the completion of that spend down plan.
Okay, cool.
With respect to spending that fund balance down, is there a level that needs to come down to?
Yes, this will get us within that level.
Okay.
So are these 6 tables on top of the 8 we already purchased?
Yes,
Okay, so now we have 14 that
Yes.
we've purchased, okay.
we have very nice cafeteria equipment.
We must.
Did we ever get didn't we get not steam tables, but
Yes,
actual
we did.
tables?
And they,
Yes.
They
they're
were
very nice.
They're very nice tables. We're actually in the process of purchasing one additional table for each school to have a handicap accessible table at each school. That was an oversight on the tables that were purchased previously. We need to have at least one ADA compliant table at each school, so.
Okay. Thank you. Good answer.
So I'll make a motion to approve the food service equipment purchases going with the lowest bid.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. There was no further conversation about that, was there? Okay, good. Construction of the concession stand utilities MOU.
So I verified with Matt, it's actually the bathrooms that they're putting at the soccer field, and then there will be a concessions area attached to it. And so this MOU is just basically the school district giving the city of Rathdrum permission to work on our property to bring the water and the electricity, to the site.
Who wrote this?
It came from the city attorney.
I was gonna ask if our attorney.
The part that concerns me, because it's kind of uncheckable, is paragraph J.
That in exchange for the city providing the plans, materials, and labor for this project, which, that's my first beef, nowhere in here do we define what the project actually is, but we start talking about a project. And as you read through it, you can kind of think that maybe it's just stubbing in the utilities, but I have no idea. So
Clearly stated.
it needs to be clearly stated what the project is that this keeps referencing. Because they're providing plans, materials, and labor for the project, The district agrees to work with the city in the fact that the first item is conveyance of the real property known as Cooper Field, in which the John Brown family donated to the city. The city is currently maintaining, but has mistakenly remained titled in the district's name.
Mistaken.
So they want us to deed over real property to them, this Cooper
So,
Field?
yeah, so according to the city, the land, and I don't know how familiar you are with this, but the land was donated to the city, and the city's maintaining it, but the city allowed us to use it, so it's the baseball field
Right.
over here. And for a long time, that was actually part of the John Brown playground.
That's right.
So we were allowed to use it, and somehow it became part of, it got deeded to the district. I'm not sure how that happened, but they've got paperwork that shows that it was donated to the city, and the city never conveyed it to the district.
Yeah, I've never seen all that paperwork.
I have a meeting with Leon to get my hands on it.
For years, it was considered part of John Brown. And then, and during all that time, the district maintained that field. The city wouldn't do anything on it, even though we asked them to at that time. And then suddenly, it became city property somehow. And they
But
took
isn't the
over
land that John Brown, cause that's the other thing Leon told me, is that the land that John Brown and the district office sit on is city land.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, it sounds like we need,
Yeah.
a title company and maybe some research done, because this sounds like we're getting in a can of worms here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a can of worms, I know
Yeah.
that from the past. Only from the standpoint that there's which nowadays they don't do, but there's a rider in the deed that says if John Brown ever discontinues as a school, it reverts to the Brown family.
And Leon says it actually reverts to the city.
Well, see, I've never seen that. And
So
I've never had that understanding.
I do have a meeting with him because they have the documents, so I will
I would
get
tell you
copies
that
of those.
unless they've been gone, they're gone by the wayside, all those old deeds were right here in the office.
Yeah.
Cause I looked at them one time.
Somebody got rid of all of the pieces of paper.
Oh my god.
I have pieces of paper in my office.
Do you have deeds?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Those deeds are also, but we'll need to go through them. I was just actually looking through, I have this right.
Okay, so
Yeah, well, we know how that works. I mean, I helped a nonprofit get out of issue with the county where something was never recorded properly, and had we not had the paperwork, now mind you, they've been paying the property taxes for generations on this piece of property. And, the county had no record of it.
So-
We fixed it, it took a while, but, yeah, this needs to be, I don't know that we can go, this needs to be figured out.
So I can,
I was aware that this was coming, I had been given a heads up,
okay.
but, and I raised the issue because I don't 100% know that background, except for the time that I spent going through those deeds years ago. And the only thing that I recollect finding is that in the event that John Brown is no longer a school, it reverts to the Brown family. Now, who's the Brown family? And where the city comes into play with the Brown family, that's pretty gray, I think.
Right, well, Leon told me that they have a document that shows that the Brown family donated that land to the city.
Well,
So, I'm gonna meet with him and I will get copies of the documents that he has,
Yeah.
and Jessica will look at the deeds, and so we'll have to put that all
and
together.
I'm not necessarily 100% opposed to deeding that field to them, because they are maintaining it, and if it's done with the understanding that we will have perpetual use of that land, that field, as needed for John Brown Elementary for so long as it's a school. That's the only stipulation that I would require.
John Brown doesn't get to use that land right now.
Well, they should.
They don't, they put that fence up and.
But I mean, if we're doing a trade, let's make it a balanced trade, I guess is what I'm
Well,
Well, I
according
think
to
we
their,
need to figure out who actually owns it, I think we start there.
well, according to their second item is an update of the facility joint use agreement between the city and the district in which the parties have agreed to share facilities. Again, that would need to be identified, what facilities we're sharing and what's the expectation within that.
That's-
That would be the use of like their park and rec program, being able to use our gyms for park and rec program, basketball, volleyball.
Kind of the blank check part of it.
Yeah,
right. They didn't
It's
really
not
define
identified.
it. Yeah.
And then-
Are you aware of that agreement
The,
that's referenced here?
I've never seen it, I know that we have one, but I've never seen it.
Well, before we agree to do anything with it, we ought to probably have a look at it.
Yeah, what are we getting in exchange for them using it?
Well, I
I
think we
know
just have
Post Falls pays for, the city of Post Falls pays for resurfacing of gym floors on an occasion, yeah.
I
Do
think
we-
that
do
what
we-
we get
do-
is
do we-
sometimes they don't charge us fees for permitting and that kind of stuff.
Are we charging the city fees for gym use, for example?
No, but when we need to use, Majestic Park for something, they don't charge us fees, so there's,
What do we use Majestic Park for?
we used it for our summer book club meetings. So we were able to reserve the gazebo, for 6 weeks in the summer. We didn't charge us fees, but, so I can, I do have a meeting scheduled with Leon specifically for this reason, so, I will get copies. The legal documents, and then I'll also see if he has a copy of this, our agreement, facility use agreement. I've never seen it. I'll ask if he has it.
And part of that joint use agreement, I'm wondering how that covers city or public use of the big field at high school. Because originally that was a joint project, but then and there were certain elements of that the city was to provide
Right, and
that went by the wayside.
right, and I did ask him about the water, like, cause that came up at our last meeting, that the city should be paying for the water for the field because it was a joint use, it was a park and rec grant that the district and the city did together. And so he said, I'm not aware of that, so he was supposed to go look for that, so that's part
But
of
the field is locked, are they using it at all?
the football field. We have to allow access, that's part of the grant, is the public has access.
Yeah, the public has access to it,
But do they?
Yeah, people go and run.
tennis courts, for example.
People go and run the track.
Go down and run the track all the time. That kind of thing.
Not right now.
Yeah. Incidentally, I took a walk on that thing the other day while they were working on it. Just-
They're supposed to be, the rubber is supposed to be done by the 20th, and then it'll take, 2 days for to paint the stripes, so it should be done by the 22nd.
There's a portion of it, probably, I'd say almost a third, that was in pretty tough shape. I'm talking about the asphalt part of it. And those guys were down on their hands and knees with little ketchup bottles, squeezing stuff into the cracks in order to try to
It
seal
took
it
them
up.
weeks just to do that part of it.
So just be aware that the life of that is limited.
We have a 5-year warranty on the track itself. It's anticipated to last longer than that, but I'm aware that when we need to redo that track again, we will have to replace the asphalt.
Probably, yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
It
like
will have
That
to
was
be.
brought to us when we approved the project, I remember that part.
Okay, so I will,
So
get those
welcome.
documents for you and bring those back.
And this definitely needs to be reworked. Okay,
Yeah, so do you want to deny it, or do you wanna table it?
we should table it.
Okay, and I will let Leon know that.
So does this
No,
hold
we
off
should-
on their project for getting the concession stands and stuff done before winter hits?
Good.
Do you have a time
But I
frame,
know it's already
time
been,
schedule
it's
on
already been
that
delayed.
project?
They're ready to go, they're just waiting for our approval to give them permission to be on the property.
If they take paragraph J out, I'll vote for it.
If they can define what the project is, if they can define, the cost involved, if they can tell us exactly what we're gonna need to pay within 30 days, and then when we build the building,
Well, there is
sure.
there is
It
a
does
cost
say what
sheet.
we have
There
to
is a
pay.
cost sheet attached. It's only about, I don't know, a little over $2,000.
Yeah, it's $2,700.
And there was an indication they might waive that.
What's that?
There was an indication they may waive that. They were already agreeing to waive some of the costs.
Yeah, and item 9B on the agenda as an action item to consider waiving fees for the construction of the concession stand at the soccer field.
Do we have the cost of the water meter fee? It's not on here.
Water meter is $553. Treatment is $2,216.50.
Okay.
It's on page 6.
Okay. I got it.
Way at the end.
April 10th, 2023? Why are we just now getting this?
I don't know, but it's a hurry up and slowing.
April. Yeah,
So except for the fees required for the water meter and sewer treatment, the city will not charge the district for the materials and labor needed to complete the project. Yeah, I just, this is so poorly worded, it's
Keep in mind, Leon is saying in this letter to the mayor and the council that these items could be waived, not that they have been.
Right, so I need to find out if they were, because this letter went to the council on April 10th. So where's the, what did they decide? Does that help define the project for you, Michelle, or do you want it delineated out more?
well, what, I can guess what the project is, but they don't delineate it now. And they're just giving a sheet of fees that they're willing to possibly waive. But I'm assuming it's stubbing in water and sewer, that's what they're going to be doing. And have we already drafted the bathrooms for the concession
The
stands?
city, through its public works personnel, will provide the materials and install both the water and sewer lines needed for the concession stands in accordance with this agreement and the city-approved construction plans. This will generally consist of tapping into the city's water and sewer lines located along the east boundary line of the property, constructing and installing a 1-inch water line and a 4-inch sewer line from the tapped location to a location just within the eastern boundary line of the property and setting the appropriate meter. And finally, constructing and installing no more than approximately 60 feet of water and sewer lines from the set meter to the general location of where the concession stand will be located as either depicted in the approved plans or marked by the district, where said lines will be stubbed and await hookup to the concession stand by district's contractor, collectively referred to as the project.
So the project has been described.
Yeah, keep in mind, if they're gonna run it through Public Works, that building's gonna end up having to either drawn by an architect or an engineer.
I'll follow up with Matt and Mike and find out.
Okay, but earlier you said now this was for bathrooms, but
Right.
everything in this is for concession stands,
Cool.
so.
Right, that was confusing to me, and
Okay.
Matt said it's the bathrooms
It's all together.
and the concession stand
It's
are
one
one
building.
thing.
Okay.
But probably bathrooms are on either end, and concessions in
Yeah.
the center would be very similar to the others that we have.
Right. I don't know why they call it the concession stand, cause what his concern was the bathrooms, but that's what they call it.
Priorities.
According to Kootenai County, we own that land.
I know, that's what Leon is saying, they have documents that say we
Well,
don't.
we have documents right here that says Lakeland owns it.
Yeah. So. I will reach out to Leon and let him know that,
The point I make about going through the city code issues is that if they're ready to go, I mean, they could probably do all the stub in, but the building itself won't get built until they approve the plans. Plans won't be approved unless they're drawn by,
make sure that we've done that.
The design group has done the plans for the building,
Which design group?
design group, design,
Oh, is that,
that's their
name?
design group.
Is that an architect? Okay, so the plans have been drawn.
oh, they have it?
Mm-hmm.
Be nice to see them.
That
Soccer
worked pretty
fields, the soccer fields included with the bus barn and the junior high.
Yeah.
All together in one parcel.
We're not talking about the soccer field, we're talking about the baseball field, Cooper Field.
That's attached to John Brown.
I know. So the discrepancy is, the city says that they have a document that says that the Brown family donated all of this land, the land that John Brown sits on, the land the district office sits on in Cooper Field, to the city. And the city is allowing us to use the land, and so we have to get to the bottom of that.
See, one of the things you might think about is if they're maintaining that and we somehow agree to deed that field over to them, then they should deed all of this property to us permanently without exception. Let's get a fair and equitable trade if we're gonna do it.
Except the county says it's already ours,
I
so.
know, but, you know, you don't wanna get caught up in quiet title act on those deals.
Yeah, true.
Do we have a contractor for this concession stand?
Think
You don't know that.
K-Tech-
You do all the other
I
answers.
think K-Tech's doing a lot
The
of
only
work.
reason I look,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
is Matt
K-Tech
popped
is-
over today,
Yeah,
so, cause I,
K-Tech's
they're-
doing
they're
I think
doing a lot of
it.
work.
Okay.
Matt brought the building.
So I think what I'm gonna do is ask Matt to come to the October 16th board meeting and share the designs with you, who I haven't seen them. And his plan, so that we know how it's all getting paid for. Cause he's been working diligently to get this project done, but there's a lot of information that Matt has that we don't know. So I'm gonna ask Matt to come to October 16th. I will meet with Leon, I have a meeting on the books with him in September, and let him know that paragraph J is problematic, and we're willing to start to work through this with the city and look at our documents, look at their documents, and figure out how to move forward. But we don't want that tied to this, we don't want this to hold it up.
Yeah, cause if it really is their property, it shouldn't have to be, we shouldn't have to do it in exchange for doing this, for them doing this project. It's not a.
Is that suspect?
I just like how it was sort of thrown in there, cause I had highlighted mistakenly, and I'm like, you mean mistake, just like a, by the way, nudge with the elbow, or what is that? What do you mean mistakenly?
Okay, anything else that will help the board with this project?
Sleep.
In a few hours.
Oh, it's alright.
Yep. So you are tabling this, for now, is that what you're doing?
There's no motion.
Okay.
I'll move to table the construction of concession stand utilities MOU. till we have further information from Lisa and her meeting with Leon, the city administrator.
I'll second. Having a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on to the Timberlake SRO MOU.
So both of these MOUs are coming back simply because when we, first approved them, we had tentative dollar amounts, and these are now the firm dollar amounts after the county took action on raises. So the Garwood one went up a tiny bit, but the Timberlake one went down pretty significantly because, they didn't know who the person was going to be when we did the MOU, so they basically, they based it on the current SRO's salary, but, the one at Timberlake is, has a few lesser years tenure, so not as expensive.
So the SRO doesn't go to Spirit Lake?
He is going, his primary residence is Timberlake High School, but he does go to Timberlake Middle School and Spirit Lake Elementary.
Cause that's not included in the MOU. It just says Timberlake High School and Timberlake Middle School.
Nope, he will be also at SLE, Building Relationships. If you have a chance to meet him, I really like this guy, really good.
And the SRO for Garwood still states that they're going to Twin Lakes Elementary as well. Well, it says Garwood Elementary or Twin Lakes Elementary. So
I took
I'm not
that, so,
sure why that's there.
because when they put the new dollar amount and sent it to me, they used the older one, and I had changed it for you guys on the new one, so, and I didn't touch it. So he will just be at Garwood.
I would hope so, cause we're paying someone else to be at Twin Lakes.
Yep.
So since there are still officers in Spirit Lake now, what is our understanding of whether they're in our school or not?
So
Since
Spirit,
there's not a MOU in place anymore.
right. They will, just like Rathdrum does, if police are on patrol, they'll stop in just to say hi, and so that they get a lay of the land and kind of check in with the principals. I would anticipate that the Spirit Lake Police Department would do the same thing. I did ask, both Mr. Eberlin and Mr. McDougal, that if we've got a situation where a student's going to be cited or charged, that, and the crime happens on our campus, that we use Spirit Lake Police Department to process that charge and not the SRO, cause we're trying to build relationships with the SRO, and it doesn't work very well if they're the hammer every time the kiddo gets in trouble. So Spirit Lake would participate in that way. But, the one main person should not be in our schools all day, every day. And I did have a conversation with the new chief about, which direction we were going, and that we would have an SRO there, and that we would no longer be in need of that service. But we will monitor that. We already had one issue last week.
First day of school?
So I can make those, two little edits, when I send back the, MOUs. I can take the Twin Lakes out of the Garwood and, add the Spirit Lake to the Timberlake. And then, once I have it ready for you, then I'll have you sign it. If the board approves, then with those corrected, those corrections.
May I make a motion?
Please.
I move to approve the Timberlake SRO MOU and the Garwood SRO MOU with the changes as stated by Superintendent Arnold.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on to the dual credit through NIC.
Yeah, this is coming late. Usually we would get it, much earlier, but with all of the issues that they had with accreditation, it's late. But they did maintain their accreditation, and, we are using NIC for dual credit this year, so this is just the MOU for that. They didn't make any changes.
Just one quick question, I was just trying to understand, in compared to the stipends that we give dual credit instructors, they're also receiving compensation from NIC for $1,100?
No, NIC sends us a check.
It says dual credit high school instructors teaching will receive direct compensation from NIC at the adjunct rate per NIC's policy at $1,100 per credit.
That is new.
That is only if they are teaching above their credit hours outside of school hours. So if they're on contract for us, they are not getting paid that. If they are teaching a night class for NIC or something, they will get that compensation.
Okay.
Outside
Okay.
the
That
regular
part,
contract.
that underlined.
Yeah.
It is not, they're not getting above and beyond.
Well,
Okay.
they are. So
Well, they are, but they,
double dipping, but
they're not double dipping during, with
Work
NIC.
hours.
Yes.
Another sentence with lots of commas.
Like it.
But the district is paid $20 a student?
$20 per student
Per credit.
Mhm. So each semester we get a check from them that's about $15,000.
Okay.
And
What,
then
what does that compensation pay for? The money?
Those stipends.
Stipends, okay.
The stipends paid through the district, not through NIC.
and we pay them twice for teaching.
Same
What
class.
they need to teach.
That's double dipping though.
That is
It's
double
not
dipping.
against, that's against the law.
So
Pretty sure.
It's in the negotiated agreement, so.
This year. Just saying. Okay. I'd love a motion, Randy.
I'll move to approve the dual credit through NIC for 2023-2024 MOU.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor say hi.
Aye.
Hi. Now we can all say aye.
I will say aye.
Now you guys are clear.
The hour is getting late.
Yes, it is. No one's opposed? Any opposed?
So I'm opposed to the late time,
Yeah.
but
Motion carries. Moving on to board policy 2700P. This was taken back to committee because there was some language that needed to be corrected, and what was handled was that at the start of the policy under high school graduation requirements, clarification was added that the State Board of Education has set the standard for students requiring a minimum of 46 credits to meet graduation requirements. Lakeland Joint School District exceeds the state standards and has set an expectation of 48 credits for graduation. So that was added to clarify between the 46 to the 48. So we're going to champion on 48 with the understanding that if a kiddo only has 46, they still get to graduate.
So that, the way that reads,
Mm-hmm.
it kind of sounds like we've set our expectation that they have to have 48 credits for graduation. And, that is problematic for some of our kids.
What do you mean?
We definitely have kids who may not
as a class.
pass a class. And so the state has set it up so that there's a little bit of grace there. And so what you just said was that we're striving for 48, but they can
Mhm.
still graduate with 46. But
Correct.
the way I read that, it's that Lakeland Joint School District exceeds the state standards and has set an expectation of 48 credits for graduation. The way I read that, that means you have to have 48 credits to graduate.
So did you not have her read this?
sure if you did. I don't think so.
Okay.
So, sorry.
No, I just, when you and Lynn were, well, Lynn wasn't at the meeting, and so, given the language that was created, I had asked for it to be sent to you and Lynn to make sure that it was copacetic.
And she gave her input, I feel like.
And,
Yeah,
my
I
input
asked-
was, we
Yeah.
wanna make sure our number is 46 and not 48.
So then, what needs to be done is if it's 46, we need to go back through all those credits and make it 46,
Well, we can,
not 48.
we can offer 48, but you have to pass 46. That was my recommendation, and that's what it's always been. We've always offered 48 credits.
Okay, but the credits we delineate, and this is where the confusion overall lies. The credits delineated in the policy are 48. And there are teachers in our district that do not want this to say, this is how you get to 48 credits. They want 46 because that's all the state requires. And then when we talked with the principals, they were like, no, please, let us strive for 48. So then collaboratively, we were trying to figure out how can we wordsmith this so that it is an understanding that you only have to have 46, but we're gonna try and push you for 48.
So we offer 48. You must pass 46 of them to graduate, and the only two called out in statute that you have to pass to graduate are geometry and algebra. So they can take their 48 credits, they must pass 46 of them to graduate. So the options down where you delineate out, it's still 48 credits total. They just have to they have to pass 46 of them. They have to have 46 credits to graduate.
And the way it reads, that sentence makes it sound like we're requiring 48. But you could change
It
some.
says
Use the
expectation, not a
language.
requirement, and
Correct.
the state part says it is a requirement,
For 46.
and that we have an expectation, but I do agree with, it does sound like we expect you to have 48,
Yeah.
and if you don't have that, you won't graduate.
And that's not the case. You know, if you wanna use.
So then how do you wanna reword it?
Strive for, I mean, you suggested, I think, that we encourage students to strive for 48 credits. And just use that kind of language.
Okay, well, as a board, we need to decide what the language is. And the other correction that
And
was
then we need
made,
to fix the credit things too, because that was the other thing, the
that's what's
teacher
creating
and all of them.
confusing.
Right,
Yep.
and they were saying it also doesn't go with, I think, the handbook, the way the handbook was laid there or something, I don't know, I don't remember.
Well, the
all
student
the-
handbook had laid it out for 46, but the policy is
Okay.
laid out for 48. And
Right.
so it was brought back, and which do we wanna do? And it's like, well, we're gonna update the policy to reflect 48, and we're gonna take out the delineation in the handbook and just reference the policy.
Yeah.
So that if they change back and forth, if they increase, if they decrease, then you could just change the policy and it's not gonna, we're not gonna get snagged up in the handbook. But the other thing that was corrected was
But you don't go
on-
through 48 credits in the numbers, it's only the 30 that is,
And then the rest of
And
it
then
goes
there's
to
the core.
electives.
18 electives, so that's your 48. But under social studies, we were stating 1 credit of economics and financial literacy, and one, I can't remember if it was a parent or staff, but they said, is it 1 credit of one and 1 credit of the other, so is it 2? It was a confusing thing. So we actually pulled up from the State Department of Education, and it's technically 1 credit of personal financial literacy and money management. That is the new label for it. There is no more economics or in financial literacy.
They just wrote the
So-
financial literacy standards into the economics course.
So those were the only 2 changes that were made on this. So how do we?
just get rid of the word expectation and put offers. 48 credits for graduation.
Provides the opportunity
You know?
for 48 credits for graduation, to graduate, or for graduation.
And then,
Then we're golden.
What is Henry?
whatever Randy just said.
It's
Provides the opportunity for 48 credits.
So Lakeland Joint School District exceeds the state standards and has provided an opportunity of 48 credits for graduation. The following credits are identified in this procedure, because we don't wanna say expectations.
Yeah.
Well, these are expectations because they have to have the 8 credits of English, the 1 credit of speech, so those are our expectations, and then in addition to those 30, we offer 18 more electives that they can choose from. But I would say those are expectations.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be that.
Okay.
There's also a crossed out word on page 4 of 13 towards the end, in the last paragraph.
I saw that as well. That's
It,
the
yeah, it
correct.
has a,
There's such as-
the word such is crossed out,
Yeah.
so let's just totally remove it.
Any other corrections that you would like? Okay.
Page numbers,
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
and, there's literally no,
Margins.
reference to anything, or no, I mean,
All
It's a
the-
procedure.
all the-
Oh, this is the procedure?
yeah.
Okay.
Just so you guys are aware, this draft that I provide for you is just kinda like the cleaned up draft. It isn't necessarily formatted how I was gonna post it to the website. It's just, cause I put the draft up there and then I put what we worked on in the policy meeting below it, just so you could read it a little better. It's not like the final, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Anything else on this policy?
Nope, and
Not
move
trying
to
to be-
approve board policy, instruction 2700P. With the corrections discussed.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries.
Bob, did you vote?
Bob did not
I
vote.
abstained.
You abstained? Okay, well, I didn't think I heard you vote.
Thank you, Randy. So Bob
Silently.
abstained.
Bob silently abstained.
See, when I don't hear you and I ask, but the one time. Alright. Next, we're
There's so
moving on to,
much here.
I know. Okay, so that will be a little, let's skip down to graduation date and location. Does anybody have any questions or comments on that? I would like to point out that Mountain View is gonna be at Real Life in Spirit Lake. I moved down to item,
Was that a request from Mountain View?
it was. I've
Yeah,
moved.
That
there.
would be
They had
fantastic.
They had
I think it's
standing room
awesome.
only last year, and we'll have more graduates this year than we had last year, so.
And they
Be
deserve
warm
it.
in that gym.
Yes.
Absolutely, they don't.
Any conversation about the graduation dates or location?
No, ma'am.
Alright, then I will, make a motion to approve the graduation dates and locations as presented.
Second.
Hearing a motion in a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Skipping up to the snow routes and the 2-hour late starts. They look beautiful. I don't have anything to say on them.
Yeah. No, that's,
You don't? Are you sure? Are you
Not
positive?
today, Dave.
and this is
not
going to
today.
help us avoid more of the snow days, right?
Yep. So, yeah, and it's more the ice,
Yeah.
so they can't get
The steeper.
Children love snow days, Randy.
But not 4.
Well, do you wanna deny these then?
No,
Okay.
And
I have no basis other than sad children.
I will.
Move to approve the snow routes.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. The well, okay, we'll skip that one. The alternate authorizations.
There are no changes in that one, so that should be easy.
Oh, that's the supervision evaluation plan,
Yeah.
never mind. Okay,
I move to approve it.
Exactly the
Thank
same
you.
as
I'll
last year.
second it.
we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Next, we have the alternate authorizations. We've got 3 persons coming before us. It looks like a couple of them are returning that we just need to continue on.
The other one I talked to you
Is
about in
new.
executive session.
Comments, conversations.
Move to approve.
A second.
Motion is second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Now we're back to curriculum.
I don't know why we skipped it, but
Because I wanted everyone to know that when this is
Wanted to
done,
feel
we're
progress.
done with action items. That's motivation. Maybe we won't doggle, I don't know. I highly doubt it. But, I am a little concerned, sorry, on the Mythbusters course curriculum. And the problem I have is the Wired.com video series. I watched a couple of the videos and just from my own perspective, I really struggle with what they're telling these kids. This biggest one I struggled with was marijuana is not a gateway drug. And if you actually listen to what this gentleman says, he's basically trying to debunk the fact that marijuana is not a gateway drug, heroin addiction, is no worse than alcoholism, and that people can, I was kind of appalled. It's like, why would you be telling this to high school students? So, and that's the only one that I've done, not marijuana, but drugs and alcohol, I've done a lot of studying on it, and it's just very disheartening that, wow, we're presenting things to kids this way. So,
Which one is it?
it's the last one on page 11, for the Mythbusters 101 curriculum. It's the last hyperlink for the www.wired.com video series Mythbusting. And so it makes me question what else are they going to be telling, and I just don't think that that's fair to kids, especially with what some of them struggle with at home. So I do have kind of a little angst on that one, but
I would agree.
yeah. Some of the LMS curriculum, there's concerns because they all seem to be focused on an activist.
Which one are you looking at?
dice game, digital art project. There's several of them. Yapow parade teaching slideshow,
And learning activities.
learning activities.
About Dia de la Raza, maybe? I was gonna say plaza.
And then 24 fun Hispanic heritage activities for middle school is another one that has that.
Yeah.
And bulletin.
And then I do kind of agree with the comments for the modern culture and entertainment curriculum. Like, the Molly Brown biography is a link specific to that, but some of the other links are links into the website to whatever. And I think their emphasis is just that, you know, if it's just the Molly Brown thing, then why can we not just see the Molly Brown thing? Why do we have to be on the website and hunt it down and find it and all that sort of stuff? Website that links are directed to. Any other comments or conversations on the curriculum?
Gotta streamline these ideas. We need
Yeah, we do.
I clicked on the link,
You clicked the link.
that one right there.
So did Dave, and he got
Careful.
emu commercial.
A couple of the links, again, under the Mythbuster sites is going to videos. Is it the intention to watch the Mythbuster show? Do we know?
Clips of it, just clips.
Okay, but these
That's
are
all.
episodes.
Right, so the video policy indicates that the parents have to be notified that kids are gonna watch either videos in its entirety or clips from videos, and so, the instructor is just wanting the board to know that they're gonna be looking at some of the, Mythbuster video clips. They're not watching the entire video. They'll just be parts of it.
Any other questions?
Go to sleep.
I'm good.
Checking on it.
Any other questions?
If you're awake, I'm awake, Bob.
Okay.
I just don't know why they picked some that they picked. I'm just sort of confused by it, but whatever. Here we go. I'm just trying to figure out why. It doesn't matter though.
Further conversation or any conversation? Okay. I'll entertain a motion at this time.
Didn't we go through some of this before?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. It's like, that sounded familiar. So, so there was concern over, all of the Frida Kahlo things.
Yep.
Which they're correct. It's the reason she left Mexico with, what's his name who went to Frisco. And then what were the other ones that you brought up,
I just specifically do not want to utilize the Wired.com video series of myth busting.
okay. So then would it be safe to say that pretty much, with the exception of the, and nobody had objection to that one?
To what?
The Mythbusters, the Wired. I'm just trying to find
The
an easy way
comment,
to
right,
make a.
is the resources include websites, which are not static resources.
Mhm.
Yada yada yada, no issues, while these are websites, they lead to specific documents.
Okay, yeah.
No concerns, and then I tend to agree. But I just was going through the sites, and when I went to Wired and I saw that one, I thought, I'm gonna watch it. And I did, and I'm like, no, we can't put that in the, I mean, I don't want that in our classrooms, that's not appropriate.
Mhm. And I wish we could really see the Dia de la Raza, information that was in the, so I'm curious also why they chose that and if it's just confused. Christopher Columbus and race day and, alright, so, would it be safe to say that we would, accept the recommendations, you know, as they were provided, to us, with the exception of the Wired.com video series? Which means that all the Frida Kahlo lessons
Accepting those.
would not be accepted.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's your motion, I'll second.
yeah, that's the motion.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. So that concludes all of our action items. Going down to discussion, we have been, it's been recommended that we purchase Droplet to help develop our forms and create new workflow systems, because Google Forms isn't the best. My only question on this is how much is it going to cost us to buy the program? Cause that wasn't included.
Do you remember what the amount was?
So initially it was gonna be $28,000 to do unlimited forms.
Okay,
They restructured their pricing model.
good for them.
Yes.
We
Um,
think.
Bob's having a heart attack.
I'm having a heart attack. I know, Bob, believe me. They restructured their pricing model. It's $17,000 for the first year because there's obviously some assistance with the software, but it goes down to $15,000 year over year. The benefits of adopting Droplet, the district owns it regardless of who created it. So right now with Google Forms, if someone creates the form and creates a workflow and creates a PDF operation when they leave, that they're still the owner and you can't transfer ownership of a form, so everything has to be recreated. The software has a workflow component, Droplet does, that we don't have with Google Forms currently. Yes, you can set it up, but this we would be able to use for every single form that we have. So similar to a purchase order system, when you put in something, it'll have automatic approval and it'll automatically route the form for you. Where right now it's kind of an email comes to you from Google Forms and you go in and approve it and then you forward on a PDF afterwards kind of thing. So it automates it a little bit more. We would be able to utilize it for a lot of different areas across the district. In some instances that we're not currently using it for.
When are you wanting to purchase this by? Where's the money coming from?
We do have some, state technology funds that could be utilized for it.
It became an issue for us because our former CFO owned most of the forms and suddenly
They're all broken.
nothing's working, and so people are filling out a form and it's not going anywhere and things aren't getting done. And so Jessica just started looking for an option for us that would take that out of the equation, since we're pretty reliant on Google.
I'm sorry, Jessica, what was the cost factor again?
It's $17,000 for the first year, and then it'll be $15,000 going forward. I know, I have heartburn over it too.
No, I mean, I understand why you're wanting to make the move, and that's perfectly legitimate, but that seems awfully expensive. I mean, the recurring cost, I mean, it'd be bad enough if you paid that up front and then owned it,
Right.
but to pay that recurring cost.
We do have a 1 year, 100% money back guarantee with it, so if we use it for a year and find that it's not working, they would refund us anything within the first year.
Is this, internet dependent?
It's cloud-based.
So Google Forms isn't working
It's
for
not,
certain things?
it's not that the form isn't working, it's in order to make it work the way that we want it to, you have to do a whole lot of additional steps with it. So you can create the form, but if you want a nice output from it, you have to have basically a separate app add-on for it. There's no workflow currently with it, so usually when someone fills out the form, one person or a group of people get a notification, but then that PDF gets then forwarded on to somebody or saved as the approval. Droplet would basically take that out of the equation. You would have the approvals. It's mobile friendly. It would be utilized for human resources, our expense reimbursement claims. It would be able to do the math for it, which isn't as easy to do within a Google form. We could use it for parent surveys. There's a lot of uses for it. I think if we started utilizing it, we would utilize it more, which the cost benefit of that point.
That's how these companies really make the big bucks, is they suck you in.
Yes.
And then you pay every year thereafter. You know, it's like lease programs.
There's some options with Google Forms. The recommendation would be to create a district email like finance@lakeland272.org that could own forms. It's more of the workflow piece that is appealing within the form. use of that workflow from multiple areas. I could set up a workflow for finance, but then Brooke wouldn't be able to use it on the Google side for if she had an HR at Lakewood 272. She would have to create a workflow for hers, right, a separate one.
Skywork doesn't have any workflow.
I'm all good with it.
It does for
Options.
purchase orders, but not for forms. So we already have a great process from a fiscal perspective when we're working in the system. But this is like recommendations to hire, professional development, asks if we have a facility, grants, things like that. Things that are kinda outside of your typical financial or just normal day-to-day human resources process. Well, I know, sorry, Brooke.
Just looking for ways to be more efficient.
Go back to paper. It's cheaper.
That is not efficient, but it does eventually get where it's supposed to go, so at least
That is true.
sometimes.
I think that's the other issue too, the time and effort it takes to build these forms.
Well, and just even like, when I get a
Exactly. Have a
professional
pen, you can
development
take that
or
one.
professional
Got it.
leave request forms, I have to go in and sign my name, and then I have to forward it on, but I always say, I have to save it somewhere, so that if it gets lost, I can go back to it.
Yeah.
It's a time sucker with the way that Google works.
Can we pick up the discussion items at our meeting later this week or something?
SIP plan?
I mean, they're just discussion items, we're not gonna make any.
I can briefly discuss on mine real fast if you want. You had on there the HR reporting.
Oh, yeah.
I can do that real quick if you want, since I probably won't be at your meeting, but yeah, I think the last time we talked, we agreed we do it like biannually, like in September and then in February. And so, actually I think it was October because we were gonna do it after the hiring process and update it. And so, yeah, it wasn't on my radar as much because of, after May.
Right.
and I was doing double duty stuff, so I apologize, I'll get it on an October meeting.
Okay.
Will that be good?
I think so, yeah, that would be better, yeah, that'd be, at least we would have something. I thought it was a quarterly thing.
Yes.
We
so
did
I.
start out that way, and then, we decided we talked about twice a year instead. Just because of the fact of when the major hiring times are, and.
Yeah, well, what I'm looking for is, I guess we can start there, I don't know that that's gonna give me the pattern I'm looking for, because even though it's the major hiring times, we still have constant resignations, and
We do.
especially from seeing certain schools. And I'm trying to see why, is this the norm, is this out of the norm,
So I can
you
pull
know.
data from, do you want me to maybe pull data from last year compared to the previous year?
yeah, that would be good.
As
Yeah.
far as like resignations per building,
Yeah,
positions,
yeah.
things like that?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I can do that,
Okay, yeah, that'd be perfect,
okay.
thank you.
We're gonna table everything else under discussion
Yeah.
and
I gotta
I'm
get
gonna go
up in
ahead
a couple
and
hours.
we're gonna go ahead and end the meeting. It is 11:11. We're adjourned.
Yes, thank you.